What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Now, you might be thinking, you've covered this scenario before already. Is this a remake? And no, this is a completely separate one. Yes, I did a scenario where Bardock was the first Super Saiyan, against Frieza. The first episode literally starts with him dying. This one's a bit different. This is Bardock going Super Saiyan against Gas, and it might not sound like a huge difference, but trust me, it is. You'll see what I mean as this goes on. Let's begin. What if Bardock was the first Super Saiyan? Our story begins while Bardock is fighting Gas on planet Cereal. The change isn't really too huge here. Against Gas, Bardock eventually did get some sort of power-up, allowing him to win the fight. But here it's a little bit different. He gets the power-up, but instead of just getting a power boost, he fully transforms. He gets a pretty big power boost. A golden aura envelops Bardock as his hair stands up, turning golden just like his aura. Bardock has become the Super Saiyan of legend. Gas is momentarily stunned, and so is Bardock. But Bardock then chuckles to himself. He didn't expect this to happen, but it'll be really easy to win the fight like this. With ease, Bardock not only defeats Gas, but he outright kills him. The other heaters are nearby and they're kinda panicked, but Bardock also deals with them too, quickly wiping out all the heaters at once. Bardock then powers down, amazed at this new power he's gained. But there is a pretty big issue with this though. Initially, when Bardock defeated Gas in the original story, Bardock was actually shot and left for dead, and the heaters just thought that Monaito and Bardock died. They ended up selling the planet, assuming that there's no risk. But with the heaters actually dead here, well, there's not going to be a planet sale, so somebody's eventually going to take notice, and that someone's going to be Frieza. So Bardock has to figure out what to do next. He makes a split-second decision. He knows they probably won't want to leave this planet, but Monaito and Granolah can't stay here, because if the heaters aren't able to sell this planet, well, Frieza himself is probably going to step in. Monaito's stunned, but yeah, that makes sense. Frieza will not only know that someone killed the heaters, but he'll also know that no Saiyan would be that strong enough for it, or have the desire to do so. Hopefully none of the Saiyans will be suspects, because there's no way they'd be able to defeat Gas. So that means Frieza's gonna come here and search the planet for some other warrior that he doesn't know about. Maybe not Frieza specifically, but definitely some of his stronger men. Because before they sell the planet, they need to make sure there's not some strong person lurking around that'll just kill whoever takes it over. So he'll search the planet for anyone and everyone, and wipe them all out. But if they leave the planet, sure, it's gonna leave an unsolved mystery for Frieza, but he'll just think that whoever did it just escaped. If Monaito and Granolah stay here, who knows what'll happen to them. Frieza's probably just going to kill them on principle, and at the very least he's definitely going to find them. Bardock has a spare scouter on a ship, and he goes to grab it, giving it to Monaito. He can't bring them back in his small pod, but he tells them that they'll coordinate something eventually. This way, they can keep in contact. And Monaito says they actually do have a way to escape. They could take the heater ship. That's true, Bardock says that's good thinking. But Monaito asks Bardock what he has in mind right now. And honestly, he's not too sure. He's a Super Saiyan, there's no doubt about that. That's gotta be what this power is. But even as a Super Saiyan, Bardock can tell that he's not going to be strong enough to face Frieza. Maybe he's just barely below where his power is right now, but he doesn't know what Frieza's full strength is. Maybe he's hiding more power. Maybe he has transformations of his own. He can't be rash and go to attack him now. That'll just lead to his death. So, he's going to try and find some other way. The good thing is, he knows that the Saiyans have the potential to win right now, but he has to keep his power a secret. He's not even sure what other Saiyans he could tell. Like, Gine is one thing, but anybody else, any of his allies, who knows how loyal they are to Frieza? Like, there's Leek and Taro, maybe he could trust them, or even other members of his crew that he's worked with, and he'll try that when he gets back to the planet. So, the exact time frame of when this fight happened is a little bit unclear. When Bardock fights Gas in the manga, it just says 40 years ago, which would make it around age 731, but Kakarot wasn't born until around 3 years later, and when Bardock fought Gas, Kakarot was already born. We even see him visit Kakarot right after the fight. And not long after this is when the Minus stuff in Dragon Ball Super Broly happened, also shown right after. So I guess we could say the events on Cereal were a few weeks to a few months before Vegeta was destroyed. Let's just say it was like a month beforehand. First, Bardock has to heal up, and then he tries to warn the other Saiyans. Right now he's just focused on warning them about Frieza, but nobody listens to him. And he wonders if he should reveal his secret. Right now the only person who knows is Gine, and she's not sure if it's a good idea. If even just one wrong person finds out that a Super Saiyan exists, that's it for them. At best, Frieza would just kill Bardock. At worst, he would decide to destroy the Saiyans even quicker than normal. Eventually, Bardock gets contact from Monaito. He says that Frieza's army was searching the planet, but he and Granolah are already out in space, and he asks where he wants to meet. Bardock says he doesn't really have a great idea in mind, but he was considering maybe sending Kakarot off to a planet called Earth. Monaito's confused though. What about him? What about his wife? Well, he was just gonna send Kakarot there. But Monaito says that doesn't make sense. He should escape too. Well, honestly, Bardock's not really too sure right now. He wants to fight Frieza. He really does. Especially as a Saiyan, he doesn't really want to run here. But he's thought about this for a while. Would he rather fight now, not running but probably dying against Frieza? Or would he rather retreat, swallow his pride, and have an actual chance of growing stronger and winning? And not just that, living a life with Gine, actually spending more time with the people he's learned to value more now, his wife, and his 2 sons. Monaito says he hopes Bardock comes to meet them. They're going to go to Earth, and he expects to see Bardock there soon. Bardock stresses over this for weeks. He even sends Kakarot out to Earth, staying behind with Gine, but just in case, he does have another option in mind. And then his worst fears are realized. All the Saiyans are now back on the planet, and Frieza's ship floats above it. In a panic, Bardock grabs Gine, and the 2 of them board their ships. And then, they see a massive ball of fire fall from space. Quickly, they launch their pods. They didn't think it would happen this soon. Actually, Bardock was hoping it didn't happen in general, but he kinda knew what the reality would be. Damn it, he wishes he had more time. Maybe he could have actually convinced everybody. Maybe he could have done something to stop Frieza. As Planet Vegeta explodes, 2 pods depart from the planet. Nobody even notices that 2 ships left at the last moment, with Bardock and Gine watching from space as the remains of Planet Vegeta dissipate. The 2 head towards Earth. Bardock destroyed his scouter, and he advised Monaito to do so too after their last interaction. He doesn't want to risk any chance of Frieza listening into them or tracking them. Hopefully he didn't hear anything about planet Earth. But also they did send one last communication to Raditz, telling him that their son Kakarot was sent to Earth. So Raditz knows that he's going there for a mission. But Gine couldn't really just tell him, come to Earth. She was just giving Raditz Kakarot's location. And Raditz kinda just interprets this as, Kakarot was sent to wipe out the planet. Communicating with him covertly will be pretty hard. What they don't know is, Raditz is not coming to Earth right now. But at the very least, they're gonna find Kakarot there. Bardock and Gine land in a forest. Typically, the sight of Saiyan space pods entering a planet's atmosphere signals its death. But here, it signals a new life, for the 3 Saiyans that have arrived here. For once, these Saiyans aren't here to fight. They aren't here to tear everything up. The tables have turned. Now they're the victims. They're seeking refuge. And this is exactly where they set Kakarot's coordinates, so they look around and not too far away, they find his space pod. But there's nothing in it. Kakarot's gone. Now they're concerned because, well, they have no clue where he is. Maybe someone just found him and was concerned, and then they just took him in. And as they're searching around, eventually somebody finds them. And no, it wasn't Grandpa Gohan that found him. It was Granolah. While he was waiting with Monaito, the 2 of them noticed something in the sky. And it looked like a shooting star or something, but Granolah got a closer look. Monaito could feel a presence from it, and he realized it was a person. And with Granolah's vision, they could tell it was a ship. And there was a young Saiyan on board. Alongside Granolah and Monaito, Kakarot steps out, glad to be reunited with his parents. And Bardock is pretty glad to see these 2 here. For the time being, the 5 of them will probably just have to live together. Granolah is old enough to know what's going on, and Kakarot kind of is, especially as a Saiyan. I feel like he'd comprehend it, but the issue for Granolah is he's not really trusting of everyone. And that makes sense, especially because of what the Saiyans did. Even though Bardock did save them, it will take some time to grow that trust. So, what are they supposed to do now? Well, they gotta find that out. A few months pass. A galactic patrolman is sent to Earth on a mission to kill a Saiyan child. It's Jaco, and the events of the Jaco manga go pretty much the same. And right after the events of that story, he prepares to leave Earth, but then he detects a large power somewhere else. Oh crap, maybe it's that Saiyan he was sent to kill. What he doesn't know is that there's 2 other Saiyans here. Jaco goes to scope it out, and then he runs into an adult Saiyan. He panics, immediately drawing his gun. What's a Saiyan doing here? They're all supposed to be dead. Bardock's also a bit shocked and then tells Jaco to wait a moment. Don't say anything else. Jaco threatens to shoot him. He's part of the Galactic Patrol, and he's not going to let them take over this planet. Although, even though Jaco's trying to act brave, he's terrified. But Bardock says to put the gun down. He's going to explain who he is and why he's here. And hopefully if Jaco can keep this a secret. Because if anyone finds out that some Saiyans are alive, Frieza's going to come here and kill them. And that's going to put the whole planet at risk. Oh, yeah, Jaco didn't even think about that. So Frieza's completely unaware that a Saiyan's here. Yeah, and Bardock wants to keep it that way. So Bardock explains everything that happened. And then he even goes Super Saiyan, showing off his full power. Jaco can't believe his eyes. And Bardock says that if he really were here to cause trouble, he has the power to do that. He would have done it by now, but he's been here for months. So has his family. He could kill Jaco with ease right now and also wipe out this planet, but he's being covert, and that should be enough proof. Scary, but okay, fine. And it's also pretty weird to see a Saiyan with his family. Usually they don't care about that kind of stuff. Alright, Jaco will keep this a secret. He'll tell the patrol he dealt with the Saiyan on Earth and there's no problems there. But also, he has some friends here on Earth who might be able to help them out, though it could be a long shot. Help them out? In what way? Well, Jaco's not really too sure either, but he at least knows some people here. One day, Bardock gets a visit from an old man. His name is Dr. Brief, and he's with his daughter Tights. Bardock's a bit confused at first until he introduces himself as Jaco's friend. Well, more so Tights is, but he wanted to check this out too. It's pretty cool getting to meet aliens, especially because they look so close to humans. He finds it very interesting, and his scientific curiosity got the best of him. He has a proposition for Bardock. He'll help them get adjusted to life on Earth. He'll help them blend in, become normal citizens, and no one will suspect a thing. Apparently he's hiding from some intergalactic emperor, and Bardock's pretty surprised to see that Dr. Brief is talking about this so casually. His only condition is that he can observe Bardock, and study his tech if he has any with him. Well, that's fine and all, but the only thing Bardock brought was his ship, and Dr. Brief says that's more than enough. A ship traveling many times faster than light, one that can go intergalactic distances. Of course he'd want to study that. And then there's also one other thing. Bardock destroyed his scouter, but Monaito still actually has his. Thankfully he hasn't turned it on or used it, so Frieza hasn't been able to spy on them or anything. Bardock first panics when he sees it, but maybe it's fine. Dr. Brief takes a look at it and he thinks it's pretty interesting. He'll pick this apart and he'll make sure not to activate it. Maybe he could find a way to commercialize the ships and the scouters somehow. But Bardock's fine with this. He says the two of them have a deal. And Dr. Brief looks forward to their friendship. Friendship? He didn't think he was making a friend here, but okay, whatever. It'll be nice to stay on this planet and not have to hide out. But he's not the only one who gets a visit. After their first few months, somebody else of course takes notice. Monaito's watching Granolah train in the woods one day, and then he gets a visit of his own. Monaito's speechless when he sees who's watching. Another Namekian appears in front of him. He introduces himself. He's the god of this planet, and he's wondering why this group came here, but more so, why these two look so similar. This kind of catches Monaito off guard. What does he mean? Of course they're both going to look similar, they're both Namekians. Kami remembers very little about his past, and nothing about Namek. Monaito settled on planet Serial a while ago. He was one of the Namekians that didn't settle on Namek, but I'd wager he'd still know something about the planet. At the very least, he knows something about the Namekians. And something about Kami looks familiar. It's really hard to tell because he's a lot older, but Monaito racks his brain. And now thinking about it, he thinks that this guy's related to Katas in some way. Kami has no clue who that is, but Monaito explains. He's another Namekian who existed long ago. We don't know much about Monaito, so I can kind of come up with things here. I'll say that he was also one of the Namekians who lived in the Demon Realm and then moved to here. Monaito says he was really young when that happened, but he does remember that other Namekian. He was a genius in the Dragon Clan, though he didn't know him really well. But why does Kami know nothing of his planet? Kami explains his own past, how he came here, lost his memories, and then split with Piccolo. The two are equally fascinated by each other. But then Kami asks who Monaito's friends are. Well, that's a bit of a longer story. Though if Kami would like to, he could meet them. I mean, he is the god of this planet after all. It's not like he has to ask their permission. Monaito chuckles, but Kami is still so weirded out by this. To think there are others like him out there. He knows nothing about himself. But yeah, he'll meet these other people that are here with him. Those Saiyans, or whatever they're called. And also that kid with green hair who's apparently not one of them. Earth now officially has 5 new residents. Another Namekian, the last Cerulean, and 3 of the last few surviving Saiyans. Monaito and Kami start to get along a lot more. Monaito is actually older than him and probably a lot better with magic. I mean, just look at the crazy wish his dragon granted for Granolah compared to what Kami's dragon could do. He wants to help Kami improve his Dragon Balls. He actually brought his own here with him. He didn't expect to encounter another Namekian with his own set of Dragon Balls too, but that's a good thing. They'll have Taranbo and Shenron together. Monaito goes to live on the lookout, and Kami wonders about those 2 other kids that are here. Granolah joins Monaito on the lookout too, so Kami at least gets to know him a little bit more. Earth is already very high-tech, but Dr. Brief makes some huge advances with the tech here. Thanks to the ships Bardock, Gine, and Kakarot have, he's able to advance his products even further, and on top of that, thanks to the Scouter, he's able to make it into some sort of communication device. It becomes a huge hit. Everyone loves their Capsule Corp glasses. Earth is now even more advanced and more connected than before, and Dr. Brief wants to show his thanks to Bardock. He becomes the head of security at Capsule Corp just so he can earn a living. And he's obviously really good at it too. He's the strongest person on Earth right now, and he is a professional mercenary essentially. But on top of that, when Dr. Brief first met Bardock, he had him sign a contract. Now, the technology wasn't actually Bardock's, but just for bringing it here, Dr. Brief cuts him in on a small percentage of the earnings. Thankfully, there shouldn't be any copyright issues with Space Emperors. If Frieza has an issue with it, well, he can come here and deal with it himself. Otherwise, he considers these Bardocks, so he gets some money from this too. The Saiyans are businessmen in a way, so Bardock is really glad to hear this and also negotiates with him. And with how much money Dr. Brief makes from this, even with just a small percentage, Bardock gets a huge amount of Zenny paid to him, on top of the job that he has at Capsule Corp, which pays pretty well too. So, not long into his time on Earth, Bardock becomes a millionaire, and Gine also has her own venture, deciding to open her own butcher shop with Bardock investing. This way they could blend into society a bit easier, and it gives them more things to do during the day. Of course, Bardock loves training, and he has great facilities at Capsule Corp. He even gets to use gravity training because he mentions the gravity difference to Dr. Brief, and he decides to rectify that. It is really weird for Bardock and Gine because Even though their whole planet was just destroyed, their quality of life has jumped significantly. They've never been rich before. They were low-class Saiyans after all, they were basically the bottom of the barrel. This is kind of weird. But on top of that, there is another addition to their life. With Earth being as peaceful as it is, the two of them also end up having another kid, about a year after arriving. This time, it's a daughter, and you already know who it's going to be if you're familiar with my channel. And if not, well, whenever I have a scenario with Bardock and Gine and they end up having another kid, I usually go with the daughter and always stick with the same design and name because I included her once a while ago and people seem to like her. Plus, I have a bunch of art of her already, so I'm going to bring her back. Her name is Runa, and she hasn't shown up in a scenario of mine in a while, so I needed to bring her back somehow. As time marches on, Kakarot eventually gets enrolled in schooling to blend in, at the request of Dr. Brief, and he becomes friends with Bulma. Same for Granolah too. It is kind of weird. First of all, they can't really keep up with Bulma's studies because of how smart she is, but Bulma apparently did go to a normal school in West City, so she and Granolah would probably be in the same school, albeit with Granolah being a few grades higher. Kakarot, on the other hand, would be too far behind in grades to be in proximity, but he's in the same school system. Thankfully, unlike Granolah, he hasn't missed a ton of schooling because he arrived here at age 3. Kakarot actually gets a proper education. I feel like Granolah would do decently in school. He is a pretty resourceful guy, I mean, he was a professional mercenary after all, and he made his own way without any help from anybody. I'm not sure how that would apply to his academics, but I think he'd do well enough. As for Kakarot, it's really weird to say because Goku had such a different upbringing, not just in how he was schooled, but just everything in general. But he has a lot of good influences and a lot of money around him too. Kakarot ends up shocking everybody. He is a really good student. He's not as smart as Bulma, but he's surprisingly a really smart kid. But naturally, him being a Saiyan, he's definitely rowdier than Goku. But with the influence of Earth, he's not like a normal Saiyan. He could at least channel a lot of this energy into sports, and outside of school, he does a lot of training. Granolah, on the other hand, eventually grows to have a bond with the group. Bulma becomes a close friend to both of them, and as for Kakarot, the two of them actually become pretty brotherly. At first, it was such a strange situation, but even with the feelings that Granolah harbored towards the Saiyans and Frieza, he's warmed up to Bardock's family, and Kakarot didn't do anything wrong after all. The two actually become pretty close. Even with Kakarot being a great student, though, he doesn't really like school. He wants to fight more. And Bardock and Gine don't like school either. They'd rather just have him grow up like a normal Saiyan, but they need to pretend to be Earthlings, and maybe this won't be the worst thing for him. Bardock did want his sons to thrive, and in a way, he is thriving, just by Earth standards. He's coming to see that this planet is a lot better than planet Vegeta, so maybe those are better standards. Bardock also barely has to work, and he has a ton of money. Combine that with Kakarot having free time out of school, of course Bardock ends up training him, as well as Granolah. Granolah has the same goal as them too. He wants Frieza dead. The Heaters were already dealt with, but they're responsible for everyone on his planet being wiped out, including his mother. They actually directly killed her, so that makes it even more personal. With them and the Saiyans gone, Frieza's the only one left, as well as his entire army, of course. And Bardock says they'll get that revenge soon enough. But he wonders where Raditz is. He expected him to come here eventually. They have no way to contact him now because they destroyed their original scouters as a precaution. The only one that exists now is the one that Dr. Brief has, but he completely disabled and dismantled it in order to make his new prototype devices. Even if they did have a scouter, it would be way too risky to contact Raditz. Plus, as far as they know, he's with the prince as well as some other guy. Bardock wonders if they're all still alive. Hopefully Raditz is, but what about the other two? Kakarot doesn't start training as a martial artist like usual. He never ends up meeting Grandpa Gohan, nor does he go to Kame House. As a Saiyan child who trains, and with Capsule Corp tech at his disposal, plus Dr. Brief wanting him to study, he utilizes that tech as much as possible, including the gravity chamber that they now have. Kakarot's fighting style is weird. He's not as technical as Goku is, but after a few years on Earth, he is a lot physically stronger than Goku was at this point. Granolah is not as focused on fighting as the others, but he does want to take revenge on Frieza, so he definitely would be keeping up at the very least. Also, Granolah is a little bit older than Bulma, so by the time Dragon Ball would normally start, Granolah would be at least 18. So, he's done with school, and he needs a career, and a goal. He could go to college, and he'd probably be encouraged to do so by the people around him. Maybe he could find something with that. Kami also gets to know everyone more during this time too, mainly because of Monaito. He knows Granolah very well, but he starts to see Kakarot and then eventually Ruda more. Bardock is far stronger than everyone, but Kami sees Kakarot's strength and it's pretty impressive, though he's very unrefined. He and Granolah should train on the Lookout and eventually Ruda too. This is a thanks to Monaito and a showing of their alliance. Bardock thanks Kami as well. Even though he's offered the ability to train on the Lookout, Bardock declines. He likes training on his own and doing his own thing, but he appreciates the gesture. And after all these years pass, Bardock is starting to realize that he really likes life here on Earth. He's adjusting really quick, and sure, a lot of the things are still weird. Society here in general is completely different. Of course, there's violence, there's war, there's still crazy things like that, but Compared to Planet Vegeta, where as a child you're thrown into war, this is a lot better than his own history. He only wishes his other comrades were here to witness it, but at least he has his family. And soon enough, Bardock wants his kids to go Super Saiyan. He wonders if it'll be any easier for Ruta because she was conceived after he became a Super Saiyan, so maybe there's something there. But either way, he wants both of them to grow strong. And Gine adjusts to life on Earth as well as Bardock does. She's fine with not fighting either. Honestly, she doesn't even care at this point. She was kicked off of Bardock's team for not being a great warrior anyways, and she likes this new life a lot better. Of course, by Earth standards, she is still one of the strongest people on the planet at the moment. Bardock, Granolah, and Kakarot are definitely above her at this point, but besides those three, I'd say she's the strongest on Earth, at least until Ruta grows a lot stronger. Bulma eventually decides she wants to search for the Dragon Balls, so she takes her friends along. Kakarot, Ruta, and Granolah all join. They come across some pretty interesting people, like some guy named Gohan, intrigued to see two kids with monkey tails, and a man with one red eye. But he's seen crazier things on Earth, so he doesn't even question it. They meet Yamcha, they meet Ox King, they meet Roshi, and when Roshi destroys Frypan Mountain, Kakarot very easily copies the Kamehameha. So he still learns it here, just from seeing it once. Roshi is stunned, and even more stunned to hear that they're training under Kami. It's incredible. But of course, they encounter the Pilaf gang too, and they're very easily stopped. Thankfully, with Bulma still meeting Yamcha, she decides she's not going to wish for the perfect boyfriend, and instead, she just wishes for infinite strawberries or whatever else she wanted to wish for. Had she made the other wish, well, Vegeta probably would have been brought here way earlier than normal, but I guess that's saved for later. Even though Kakarot has met Roshi, he never does go to Kame House. Kami is his master, and Kakarot eventually ditches his Saiyan armor and decides to wear a gi. It kind of surprises Bardock, but he's glad that Kakarot's evolving like that. But he's also realizing that he probably needs to train his son more. He hasn't been a good enough master, and more importantly, he thinks Kakarot's finally ready for some more intense Saiyan training. Ruta watches along, and she starts training with Kami herself, but she does watch her brother and father train from time to time. As a martial artist, Kakarot's the greatest in the family, by far. And Bardock is really impressed to see this, but his power is nowhere near his. So, Bardock then shows them Super Saiyan. They've seen this a bunch of times, and he'll whip them into shape until they're able to do this. This is what they'll use to defeat Frieza, the one who killed all the Saiyans, and the one who's probably still out to get them. Thankfully, he doesn't even know they're alive. Hopefully Raditz made it out fine though. Monaito notices something strange from the lookout one day. There's a group going around, an army, and they locate one of the Dragon Balls. Actually, this is one of Monaito's Dragon Balls. The Red Ribbon Army actually found one of his. They're a little confused because the Dragon Balls are really small, but it is what they were tracking. But the location of the Dragon Ball is actually Monaito's house on the surface. Even though he does live on the lookout, they did have a temporary residence there. So of course he's going to go down to defend it. The army is weirded out to see an alien-looking guy here, but what's even crazier is that Monaito is a lot stronger than them. You know what's really funny? Monaito's power level was 213 in the Granolah arc. That would also make him stronger than pretty much anyone on Earth besides his own friends. He actually prevents the Red Ribbon Army from getting his Dragon Ball, but then someone else joins in. Granolah's there. He decides he's going to take this army down. After going through an army invasion on his own planet, he's not going to let this planet suffer the same fate. So, Granolah goes out to destroy the entire Red Ribbon Army, and he leaves no trace of anyone. The entire base is wiped out. It is really easy for him to do, and with his great eyesight, he makes sure nothing's left, even getting Dr. Gero in the process. Kakarot and Ruta even join in too, and Bardock hears of this, so he goes along, not joining in on the fight, but just watching to see what his kids are capable of. You know, he doesn't want them tearing this planet up or anything, but the Red Ribbon Army was probably going to do that too, so he's fine with this. Plus, this is the most Saiyan-like thing that they're ever going to get to do here, and it's not like it's the wrong thing to do either, so of course he wants them to take the opportunity. And he admires their work. It truly makes him proud to be a father. Now, he's glad they're not growing up like normal Saiyans, but if these kids were the average Saiyans that were invading planets, they'd be great at it. Parallel to this, Goku, or Kakarot in this case, never ends up going to Kame House. So the primary student there, and basically the star student, is Krillin. He trains under Roshi alone, and he's probably not going to grow as strong without a great training partner like Goku, but he does really well. He almost becomes a champion of the World Tournament, making it to the final round where he faces Jackie Chun, who ends up winning against him. This is so Krillin knows that there's always stronger people out there. He was hoping that one of those other people would join this tournament. Those two kids with monkey tails seemed really powerful, and same for that green-haired guy. They were really good warriors, but they're not part of the tournaments. He wonders why. And while this is going on, the Pilaf gang is still alive. They were easily defeated but not wiped out, and they want revenge. They want it as soon as possible. So they search for King Piccolo, looking to free him in order to sick him on that crew that defeated them. Piccolo's not going to be nearly strong enough to fight them, but of course, they're oblivious. Prior to the 22nd World Tournament, King Piccolo is unleashed by the Pilaf gang. Because of how terrifying Kakarot and Granolah were, plus them causing even more havoc destroying the Red Ribbon army easily, the Pilaf gang is really antsy and they spend all this time trying to find King Piccolo. They've succeeded. But first, King Piccolo needs to get the Dragon Balls, and he's also going to create some suns just to ensure that he could actually take over the world. But right when he's freed, Kami's aware of it, and so is Monaito too, hearing it directly from him. He already knows that Kami split with the evil part of himself, and he knows that if Piccolo dies, Kami dies. And with Piccolo being the type of guy he is, he's probably going to make some enemies, particularly enemies with Monaito's friends, ones that are strong enough to kill him with ease. So they need to put a stop to him as quickly as possible, and Monaito sends someone out on a mission. He gets Granolah to do this. He tells him to capture King Piccolo alive. Granolah understands. This should be pretty quick to do, and he could actually use his sniping skills from here. Kami and Monaito can see everything from the lookout, while for Granolah, his eye lets him see this. He could feel King Piccolo's key, and then he dives off the lookout, flying directly towards it, and then, once he gets close, he gets more covert, watching from a little further away. King Piccolo's on an airship right now. He's with the Pilaf gang. Granolah simply launches a small sniper shot, directly hitting the engine of the airship, causing the crew to make a crash landing. The Pilaf gang survives and so does Piccolo, but he knows someone's after him. Then the Pilaf gang all falls unconscious, hit by a very weak blast from Granolah that hit them directly in vital points. And Piccolo's not quick enough to react either. He's the last one taken out, and he's knocked unconscious. Granolah then scoops him up and brings him to the lookout. Monaito and Kami were watching the whole thing. They're amazed. They didn't know Granolah would be that efficient. It was only a few minutes. So, not long after being freed, Piccolo finds himself up on the lookout, facing Kami, another person who looks similar to him, and then this mercenary that attacked him. Seeing another Namekian has him perplexed. Monaito explains that they sort of have similar origins, but he also knows that Kami and Piccolo are once halves of a whole. Kami wonders what they should do with him. Maybe they should just seal him away again, but Monaito has a better idea. He thinks the two of them should merge back together, and both are immediately against it. Even Granola's a bit surprised to hear this. Wouldn't that defeat the whole purpose of this? Well, in Monaito's eyes, the two of them together would be unstoppable. Plus, they're supposed to be together. Kami and Monaito were jointly guarding Earth, but if they do this, Monaito can actually train him up to be even better. He could be a better magician, and he'll have power to back himself up too. He can get more directly involved with things, while Monaito can be the one who sits back on the lookout. Well, Kami does understand where he's coming from, but he doesn't want to be corrupted by that again, and Piccolo's against it completely. He's not going to be good. Well, Monaito thinks there's better ways to expel his evil than literally just getting rid of it completely. He can keep the two Namekians as a whole, while making him a much stronger and better guardian. Angrily, Piccolo says this is ridiculous, and then he goes to leave the lookout. Right now, he kind of wants to deal with Kami and seal him away somehow, but with Granolah there, that's impossible. Though, Monaito warns Piccolo of one thing. If he causes any havoc down there, Granolah could easily stop him, but there's also someone even stronger down on the surface. Plus, a couple other people beyond Piccolo's strength. Piccolo then launches a blast at Monaito, and Monaito launches his own back, completely overwhelming Piccolo's blast. Monaito might be weak in comparison to his friends, but right now, without Piccolo having his youth, Monaito is actually stronger than him too, just making Piccolo even less confident. Fine, if there's some strong fighter down there on the surface, he'll find him and kill him. So Piccolo leaves, going to seek out this strong warrior. And it's not really hard to find him because, well, it's Bardock. His ki is really high. He's learned to control his ki, but even though he suppresses himself a lot, since he trains so often, it's going to be easy to pick up on that ki. Piccolo eventually does find him, leaving Bardock a bit confused as to why there's another Namekian here, and this one looks really similar to Kami. Piccolo tries to attack him with all his might, while Bardock just easily dodges all of his attacks. And with a simple ki, he defeats Piccolo. Bardock then hears Kami talking into his head, explaining what just happened and not to kill Piccolo. Oh, alright, he'll leave him be then. Piccolo was just completely embarrassed, first by Granolah, then on the lookout, and now by Bardock. Bardock didn't even care about this fight. He probably won't even remember Piccolo as an opponent. But Piccolo knows part of this is because he doesn't have his youth. If he gets that, he'll be stronger than anyone can imagine. Or, at least he tells himself that. The more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that, even with his youth, Granolah would still be far above him. Bardock would still be far above him. And then, so would any other warriors that exist, like the ones Monaito was referring to. He's far too weak right now. He needs to do something drastic. Maybe there's another way to gain power. Or, maybe he just has to merge with Kami. Wait, what is he thinking? He can't do that. He'll find some other way. Eventually, Roshi's able to find Kakarot and Ruda again. They remember him as being some sort of teacher of martial arts, but he's not here to actually teach them. He wants them to join the world tournament, mainly because he wants his student to see how many other strong people are out there. But also, it could be fun for them, though he knows they'd probably just win it on their own. The way Roshi actually found them is because Yamcha still became his student. Yamcha observed him in the 21st World Tournament, and then decided to go train under him. But since he also knows Bulma, who's very close with Kakarot, he was able to connect them. Gine thinks it could be kind of fun for them to do, and the two kids agree, though they're pretty surprised at how weak everyone is here. They join the tournament, and there's not a lot of strong people. A lot of the fighters are impressive when it comes to skill, but they don't really have any challenges here. The strongest person they find there is Tien, but even he's not really on their level. The final fight ends up being Kakarot versus Ruda, and Kakarot wins that with ease, becoming the World Tournament champion, having not even expected to do this in the first place. After this tournament, at some point, Piccolo feels like he's finally made his decision. He'll fuse with Kami, but under a condition. He goes to propose this. The condition is that Kami will fuse into him, not the other way around. He'll be the dominant personality. And Kami accepts this. He did have to give it a lot of thought, but he's already accepted the fact that he might have to fuse with Piccolo. This would probably be the best way to go about things, and he's been set on this decision for about a year. The only issue is, with Kami merging into Piccolo, the Dragon Balls will be inactive, but Monaito's will still be active, and he plans on helping Piccolo make another set. So the two Namekians merge, reforming the nameless Namekian exactly as he was before. Well, a lot older. And he goes by the name of Piccolo. It's been a while since he's been like this. It's strange. The two opposite personalities merging together. One purely good, one purely evil. And right now, he's not really good enough to be the god of Earth. But he's not evil like Demon King Piccolo either, which is good. Monaito is going to be the guardian for the time being, and he's going to raise Piccolo to be better. Which is kind of a weird way to put things because Piccolo's already really old. He doesn't need much more raising. But Monaito still has a bunch of things to teach him. And on top of that, Piccolo still does want his youth. He seeks out Monaito's Dragon Balls and makes a wish to Taranbo. Give him eternal youth. A few days after this, someone then approaches Bardock again. It looks to be another Namekian. He doesn't recognize this one. He looks a little familiar, but the other ones that he's seen are all old. Monaito, Kami, and then that one that fought him. Piccolo declares his name, but it's not in a braggadocious way. He seems to be a purely neutral force. After splitting, Piccolo just became more evil, and Kami just became more good. But now the two of them exist in perfect harmony. He explains who he is, and Bardock is pretty surprised that they fuse together. His power seems a lot higher too, and Piccolo wants to fight Bardock. So the two of them begin battle. Bardock fights him in base, but to his surprise, Piccolo is a lot stronger than him right now. This makes no sense. This guy was so weak compared to him before. Did fusing really make him this strong? Or was it the wish to become young again? Actually, it was both. When Piccolo merged with Kami, he got a really big boost in power. Though it was after many years of training and growing stronger on his own, plus merging with Nail on top of that. But still, the boost he got from merging with Kami can't be understated. Though this Piccolo is not as strong as the one that we saw in the Cell Saga because this happened so much earlier on, and he doesn't have all the training that Piccolo had. So, at this point, he's stronger than base Bardock. Bardock is forced to go Super Saiyan. This is a first. The only other time he's actually fought someone like this was Gas. He's trained with this form a bunch, of course, but this is different, and it's kind of nice, having someone who's this strong that he can actually contend with. Kakarot and Ruda are growing like that though, and so is Granolah. But right now, Piccolo's actually the second strongest, and unlike those other three, he could be more of a rival than a student. Bardock ends up winning the fight, but he tells Piccolo he's impressed. Merging was the right choice to make him grow stronger as a warrior. He hopes to fight him more in the future, and he wants to see how much he grows. And Piccolo is pleased with this. That sounds like a good idea to him. Speaking of Kakarot and Ruda, they're growing pretty nicely too. Kakarot actually already has Super Saiyan. He got it around the time of the World Tournament. Ruda gets it about a year after, which is pretty impressive because even though she got it after Kakarot, she's a lot younger than him. But also she was conceived by a Super Saiyan, so it's gotta be as easy as it was for Goten and Trunks to get. Hence her getting it at such a younger age. But Kakarot is the stronger one, by far. Still not on Bardock's level though, but after this tournament, he ends up going to the Lookout at the request of Bardock. Kami wanted to train Kakarot before, and now he's going to do the same thing. Although it's not going to be Kami, it's going to be Piccolo. Piccolo still has the same great knowledge that Kami does, and he's a much stronger warrior to boot. He's going to whip this kid into shape, and Kakarot likes the sound of that. Even though Bardock is an effective teacher for him, it's going to be better for him to get some other experience and not just solely train with Bardock. This way he'll be a more well-rounded warrior. The 23rd World Tournament arrives, and as you could probably imagine, the final battle once again is Kakarot versus Ruda. Kakarot's already hit his growth spurt, Ruda hasn't, and Kakarot's also far beyond his sister. Thankfully this just serves to motivate her even more, but Kakarot also easily wins this battle. Plus, on top of that, something weird happened here. On his journey with Bulma years ago, they did still come across Ox King, and Kakarot met Chi-Chi. Weirdly enough, she shows up here to propose to him, and Kakarot actually remembers who she is, and he knows what marriage is too. It's kind of weird because she did ask him before if they could get married. He was a little confused by this, and he agreed, but he thought that's just how things went on Earth, so at least he's ahead of the curve. This comes as a pretty huge shock to everyone because this entire time, Kakarot's basically had a fiancé and he's known about it. Bardock and Gine are especially surprised. They know things were kind of weird on planet Vegeta, but Is that how it's done on Earth? Well, Kakarot's not too sure, but he thought that was normal. Of course, Krillin and Roshi are here again too. They're not really close with our protagonists, but they at least know them a little bit. And watching Kakarot and Ruda fight's amazing. Krillin wants to see if he can grow that strong one day, even though they can transform, which is something that Krillin can never do. What's going on with Granolah though? Well, seeing Kakarot get engaged, he's kind of surprised. He never actually met a romantic partner here, and I'm not going to set him up with someone just for the sake of setting him up with someone, so he's going to remain like that here. But we did mention he needs to get some sort of job soon enough, and I think that job offer is coming his way. Jocko comes back to Earth at some point. He's specifically looking for Granolah. He wants to make him a galactic patrolman, and at first Granolah's not really sure, but the more he hears about it, the more he kind of likes the idea. He could use his powers for good causes and prevent things like what happened on his planet. Plus, this way he could directly combat the Frieza Force. Maybe not right away, but maybe he could figure something out. As for Kakarot, he never went to college, but he completed high school, and he'll probably just get some sort of job as a farmer, but he doesn't even really need it. His parents are really rich, though with Kakarot actually having gone through school here, maybe he'll be more open to the idea of his kids studying more. But as a Saiyan, he still wants him to train as much as possible. He and Chi-Chi will eventually have a kid, but what's his name gonna be? Kakarot doesn't know Grandpa Gohan here, so he's not gonna be named Gohan. Well, Gohan was named after his great-grandpa, so in this case, would he just be named after his grandpa Bardock? Or we could just name him after a root vegetable because that's what the whole Sun family's named after. Bardock, onions, carrots, radish, and Ruda is rutabaga. Wait a second, shallot's a root vegetable? But I think I came up with a good idea for a Saiyan name for Gohan, at least in this scenario. This one fits with the root vegetable stuff, and it also works as another type of reference. Gohan's name will be Garlic. And yes, I'm solely doing this because of Garlic Jr. We're naming him after one of the enemies that he fought. Garlic Jr. doesn't get to show up in a bunch of scenarios anyways, so at least this way I could pay some sort of homage to him. Though it is going to be weird when he hears that Vegeta has a technique named after him. One day, Kakarot is having a Super Saiyan spar with Bardock, and Bardock is really proud of his son. He's grown so much stronger, and his training with Piccolo has really benefited him too. But he still wonders about Raditz. Bardock and Gine are doing really well for themselves. Bardock has grown a lot as a warrior, and even though Gine's not training much, she still occasionally finds time for it and she has grown stronger. But particularly Kakarot and Ruda have grown a ton. But what is Raditz up to? Is he okay? He should still be out there. Bardock did make that wish for him to thrive. But why has he never come to Earth? Bardock is in no rush to defeat Frieza right now. He thinks he's more than strong enough to actually fight him at this point, but he's grown so comfortable on Earth that he's started to enjoy it a lot more. Maybe they should go out to actually face Frieza soon. But he does want Raditz here first. They have no way of finding him though. But a few years after the 23rd World Tournament, Raditz decides to head out to Earth, just to recruit his brother Kakarot. He doesn't know what else awaits him there though. 5 years after the World Tournament, there's not a Kame House reunion. Well, there probably would be one, but not with the same people. Bardock's family's definitely not going to be there. They know of Roshi, but they're not really too close with him. Actually, that's not fully true. There is one person in Bardock's family that's gotten to know Roshi a little bit more, but only because of very specific circumstances, which we'll get into in a bit. For Bardock's family, they're just kind of living life like normal. Although the word normal is doing a lot of heavy lifting because they're superpowered aliens who are also millionaires. A ship with one person aboard approaches the solar system, and the Galactic Patrol is keeping a pretty close watch. Jocko's actually the one to notice this. He gets a little bit terrified seeing a Frieza Force ship here, but he relays this info to some of his colleagues, and one of them is Granolah. Granolah's a bit annoyed at himself because he's not here at the moment. He'd love to stop someone from the Frieza Force, but it looks like Jocko's going to have to handle this himself. And when Jocko feels the power aboard the ship, he realizes that this is way below his level. This should be fine. But he stops the ship with extreme prejudice. He does have one colleague alongside him though, a brand new Galactic Patrolman who just joined, who's shadowing under Jocko. His name is Maris, and he wants to see how Jocko operates. A large man steps off, Raditz, and to Jocko he's very clearly a Saiyan. The first thing he does is point his gun at Raditz's scouter, shooting it clean off with perfect precision. Surprising Raditz at how accurate that was, but also annoying him too. He takes on a fighting stance and so does Jocko. The thing is, Jocko doesn't actually know who Raditz is. He doesn't know that there's another Saiyan from Bardock's family out there. Plus, he doesn't look like anyone from Bardock's family either, so that's not his first assumption. He's also a bit scared seeing a surviving Saiyan. Of course, the ones on Earth are pretty fine, but this guy's definitely not. He is obviously with the Frieza Force too. But just in case he maybe is a good guy, which is kind of a long shot, Jocko asks him one time, who is he and why is he here? He's not going to outright ask Raditz if he knows Bardock's family because in case this guy doesn't, he'll be giving away the fact that there are Saiyans on Earth. But Raditz scoffs. He thinks this fight is beneath him and he says, that's none of his business. He doesn't know what he's interfering with. Well, Jocko thinks it was pretty fair and he gave him a chance. So, the two of them begin fighting. And Jocko wins the fight pretty easily too. Much to Raditz's surprise, Jocko didn't really look that strong, but without a scouter, he couldn't tell anything about Jocko's power. Jocko and Maris make the arrest, and Raditz is brought to the Galactic Patrol's prison. And he stays silent too. He doesn't say his mission or who he is, both because the patrol shouldn't have any reason to know, and they are technically enemies against the Saiyans because, well, obviously they're enforcing that the Saiyans don't do what they do. But on top of that, in the prison there's definitely some Frieza Force soldiers, and who knows if word's gonna get around. He doesn't want anyone else knowing that there's a Saiyan on Earth, if he even still is there. In the prison, Granolah actually doesn't encounter Raditz, but he meets Maris for the first time too. It's nice to see a new patrolman, and Maris is gonna shadow under him eventually as well. Granolah hasn't been with the patrol for very long, but he's moved up the ranks really quickly. He's incredibly efficient at his job, and he's one of the most powerful patrolmen out there. He dedicates a lot of his time training in the training facilities they have. But when Granolah gets a look at Maris, something's off about him. And he's not evil or anything, but when he meets Maris, his red eye is uncovered, and he can clearly see Maris's vital points and such. The weird thing about him is, his body is completely calm, abnormally so, and on top of that, his vital points are indiscernible. Which isn't really a concern. Granolah doesn't plan to take him down or anything, but why is it like that? Granolah doesn't say anything about it, and Maris actually does notice this, smiling a bit. He could tell Granolah's picked up on something strange. The two of them don't acknowledge it, but the silent looks that they exchange with each other, well, that says it all. A few weeks after this, Jocko ends up going to Earth. He wants to pick up some food there, and he actually meets up with Bulma as well. And it just so happens that Kakarot and Ruda come along too. Jocko actually has a really funny story for them. It turns out, there was another Saiyan out there, and he arrested the guy. Really? Wait a second. Could it be Raditz? Jocko doesn't know who they're talking about. Who's Raditz? Kakarot explains that they have a brother out there somewhere, although he doesn't really know what Raditz looks like because he barely remembers him and Ruda's never even seen him. Jocko says they don't know the guy's name, but he actually doesn't look like any of them. Oh, yeah. Well, Kakarot actually expected his brother to probably look like Bardock and him. He's a tall dude with really long hair, which I'd actually guess comes from Gine's side. But just in case, they contact Bardock, and when he hears this, he immediately goes Super Saiyan and flies over as fast as possible. There's a huge whirlwind, and within seconds he comes over there. He transforms solely to get here as quick as possible. He then grabs Jocko, practically shaking him. What is the guy's name? Jocko's terrified now because why is Bardock acting like this? It's scary. And Bardock isn't angry or anything. He's excited because that probably is Raditz. And then as Jocko explains, he realizes it definitely is Raditz. The guy has long hair, right? Yeah. And he looks like a porcupine. Jocko doesn't know what a porcupine is, and Kakarot's kind of surprised that Bardock knows what it is. They pull up a picture. Oh yeah, it does look like one. Well, Jocko says it's more like a hedgehog. Bardock doesn't know what that is, but he's surprised Jocko knows what it is. Okay, well, enough of that. Bardock asks if he could see him, knowing the risk. Maybe it just is a random Saiyan that isn't related to them, and they're blowing their cover. But in the event that it is Raditz, he wants to see. So Bardock goes to the prison, meeting Maris there too, who also wants to keep an eye on Bardock because of his powers, but he doesn't really say much to Bardock. Granolah's with him as well, and he's actually just now hearing about this. He knew Jocko and Maris went to stop some Frieza Force guy, but he's only just gotten back from his own mission, and he didn't know they captured a Saiyan. If he knew that, he probably would have assumed it was Raditz. Bardock and Granolah go to his cell, and a smile appears on Bardock's face, with Raditz's eyes nearly popping out of his head. It's been so long since he's seen Raditz, but he recognizes his son. It's him, and Raditz is dumbfounded. His father's alive? Bardock asks Jocko if they could free him now, but Jocko says they can't exactly do that. Raditz is still a criminal part of Frieza's army, so they can't just let him go. And Granolah is actually inclined to agree. Even though Raditz is part of Bardock's family, Raditz is a pretty typical Saiyan. This entire time they've been on Earth, he's been going around destroying civilizations under the orders of Frieza. Stopping those kind of people is exactly why Granolah joined the patrol in the first place. Jocko says maybe he can try and pull a few strings, and Granolah's not really too sure how to feel about it. Bardock stays to catch Raditz up to speed. And Raditz is really surprised because, first of all, he learns he has a sister, second of all, he learns his mother's also alive too, and third, Bardock is a Super Saiyan. Oh, so that means they must have all taken over Earth together. Well, not exactly. He also learns that the rest of his family is full of Super Saiyans. Kakarot and Ruda unlocked it pretty early on, and even though Gine hasn't been training too much, sometime after the 23rd World Tournament, she unlocks it too. Bardock does have a lot of free time being rich, and he loves training, so why not combine spending time with his wife with his training? Jocko does pull some strings, and because of the circumstances, Raditz is let go, and he's brought to Earth. Gine immediately greets him and hugs him, excited to finally see him again. And then Raditz sees his brother and sister. He actually saw Kakarot before, but only in his incubation pod. He's never even spoken a word with his brother. And then there's his sister Ruda, who he's never met. She knew that Raditz existed this entire time, but he didn't know she did. So it's kind of awkward. Although Kakarot is pretty excited to meet him because he kind of always wanted an older brother. Granolah was kind of like that to him, but it's so cool to finally see another family member of his. He wonders if Raditz can go Super Saiyan as well. Well, up until a few days ago, he thought the Super Saiyan was a legend and he didn't know his father was one. Raditz also learns that he has a nephew. It's a really awkward family gathering. And Granolah's watching all this too, and he doesn't like Raditz. Raditz is a normal Saiyan, and he never stopped his missions. And by now, Bardock has told Raditz Granolah's story, so he could tell that Granolah probably doesn't like him. If Raditz weren't related to his friends, Granolah would have ensured that he dies for his crimes. But for now, he can't really do much. Though there is one issue. With his scouter being destroyed, he wonders what Vegeta and Nappa are going to do in response. And honestly, they don't even care that Raditz got caught or killed. They were a bit surprised to hear that the patrol got him, because the last transmission from his scouter mentioned the Galactic Patrol pulling him over. So that tells Vegeta that there's probably no Saiyans on Earth, because if they were able to defeat Raditz and maybe even kill him or capture him, they probably wouldn't have left another Saiyan alive on Earth. So even if Kakarot did go there, he's definitely gone. Also, no Dragon Balls means they don't care to go to Earth. The patrol won't really be an issue for them, but they don't really want to deal with that headache right now. So Raditz takes some time to get adjusted to his new life on Earth, which is really weird because this is the first time he's visiting a planet not for war. And now that he knows Raditz is safe, he has a plan. It's time to go after Frieza. Part of why he waited so long is because, first of all, it wasn't really a big rush, and second of all, he wanted to know Raditz's whereabouts, because what if he were able to go after Frieza and then, in response, other Frieza soldiers were sent to kill Raditz, or hold him hostage or something. Granted, with the Dragon Balls, they could have always brought him back, but this is a safer option. The Dragon Balls? What are those? Bardock explains what they are, and Raditz is a bit surprised. They have wish-granting orbs, and they haven't brought back the Saiyans? Well, Bardock and Gine had considered it, but that is easier said than done. When they got to Earth, they only knew about Monaito's Dragon Balls. And they know that he and Granolah definitely wouldn't have liked if they used them to revive the Saiyans. Plus, they didn't even know right away that Monaito had them on him, and again, they were with him specifically, they weren't spread around. Later on, they found out about Kami's Dragon Balls, but by the time they would have learned about that, well, it would have been too late because after a year they can't revive groups of people. Plus, Kami's set went inactive for a while, until Piccolo was able to make a new one recently, under training from Monaito. But the biggest part of it is because they didn't want to revive the Saiyans right away, and then have Frieza just kill them again. But now so much time has passed, they've kind of considered that maybe they don't care to revive the Saiyans. And Bardock realizes that sounds kind of terrible to say out loud, but the Saiyans were terrible people. Getting to know Granolah and Monaito better, they know the atrocities the Saiyans committed. They don't want to bring that back into the universe. Anyways, they ask Raditz where Frieza was last spotted, and he doesn't really know, but he gives them a general location. They're gonna go out to fight him, and Raditz can stay here. He'll be safe. But Bardock tells his son to not cause trouble either. Otherwise, he's gonna deal with God. God? Raditz then hears a booming voice in his head. It's just Piccolo messing with him to keep him scared, but yeah, that actually is the Guardian of Earth, so it is God. Raditz is mortified. He stands straight up and doesn't even move. Okay, that's fine. He'll just stay here at Bardock's house and behave. And Piccolo's having a really good laugh on the lookout. It's so fun for him to be God when he's not a fully good guy. Kami would never have fun like this. Monaito finds it kind of funny too. Dr. Brief has already made a ship for them, and Granolah and Jocko go along with Bardock's family. For the time being, Raditz is at Bardock's house, and he looks around, finding some strange things there. Mainly Earth clothes that seems like Bardock has never worn. They don't even seem to be the right size for him. Funny enough, in his giant closet, there's also a bunch of copies of his Saiyan armor, and it seems like those are way more worn than the regular clothes. Raditz actually tries on some of the Earth clothes. They're weird, but Bardock has a pretty giant house because of how rich he is. And then he finds another area where there's a nice chair, and then what looks to be some very expensive smoking devices next to them. He reads one of the boxes and it says the word cigar. Weird. What are these? Eventually Bardock's group gets to a Frieza base, and they destroy everything in sight. Frieza's not here, but King Cold actually is. Well, this is the next best thing, so Bardock's still pleased. Cold is surprised to see that there's some other Saiyans still alive, but he's not really that scared. Until they transform. All four of them go Super Saiyan. And Bardock doesn't need to drag this out or anything, he just quickly fights King Cold and kills him, with pretty much no issues at all. He also notices a scouter nearby. It's King Cold's and it's going directly to Frieza. Bardock clicks a few buttons on it, and he's able to send an audio recording of what just happened. A few minutes later, Frieza himself comes on the line, furious, but also somewhat terrified. Bardock tells Frieza long time no see. Frieza probably doesn't even know who he is. But how does Frieza feel seeing his father die so easily like that? And Frieza's speechless, but Bardock continues. He's one of the last few surviving Saiyans, and even better, he's a Super Saiyan. He's not even the only one. They've even got a Cerulean here with them too. They all would love to deal with Frieza right now, and he can't wait to see the Emperor again. He'll get to join his father soon enough as well. Bardock then crushes the scouter in his hands, and while he can't see Frieza's face, he can imagine what it looks like right now. Frieza feels a level of fear that he's never felt before. Super Saiyans are real? And there are multiple of them? And Bardock already knows what Frieza's got planned. He's probably going to come here and blow up the planet from space just so he doesn't have to face them. So in case that happens, they're prepared. Frieza then puts everyone on red alert. He wants all of his soldiers to go to this planet now. Plus, he has another order. Kill Vegeta and Nappa, immediately. Vegeta and Nappa are then caught up in a massive fight against Frieza's soldiers, and thankfully right now, they're not around too many of them and they're pretty weak, but they need to escape as quickly as possible. Frieza's finally turned on them, so they get aboard a ship and they speed off to somewhere far away. What about trying to go to that planet Raditz tried to go to? Even though the Galactic Patrol is over there, they could handle them. Plus, if anything, that'll be another proxy for them to fight with, because if the Frieza Force chases them over there, well, the Patrol will be dealing with them too, and that'll cover Vegeta and Nappa's tracks. A few days go by. Over these days, Bardock's crew fights a bunch of soldiers, and it's basically never-ending hordes of them coming into the planet, though it's not really that tough. Frieza himself is almost there, but over this time, Vegeta and Nappa also made it to Earth, with no issue from the Galactic Patrol either. Piccolo senses them approaching and he's not really too concerned, but he does have someone to send out to fight them. Vegeta and Nappa land nearby a city, looking around, and they realize that this place seems really low-key. It's some sort of backwater planet. They could wipe it out pretty easily and just make it their own base now. They don't have their scouters on them because they don't want Frieza tracking them, so they can't sense a power approaching them, but they hear somebody flying nearby. They look up and they see what appears to be a child in an orange gi, the newest student of the Turtle School. He was sent to that school to train, even though his father never went there himself. But he knew the guy was a pretty good teacher after meeting some of his students at the World Tournament. And once the kid's done with his training, he could even move on to Kami. Who knows, maybe he could even unlock Super Saiyan soon. Because this kid is a Saiyan. Vegeta and Nappa notice his tail. Right now, they're about to fight him. Piccolo has sent out Garlic to fight the two Saiyans. Vegeta and Nappa laugh at the sight of a child here. Momentarily, they are a bit surprised to see that he's a Saiyan, but they don't think he's a real threat. Though they are curious of what happened here, so Vegeta asks, "Who is this kid?" He says he's Kakarot's son, and then Vegeta's eyes widen. Wait, Kakarot? Isn't that Raditz's brother? Garlic says that Raditz is also here too, plus his entire family. This is a pretty big shock to Vegeta and Nappa because, first of all, they thought Raditz died, but they're also finding out that the rest of Raditz's family is alive. They did know about Kakarot, but they thought it was just him, and they weren't sure he was even still alive. But it turns out Bardock and Gine survived too. And then Garlic even mentions an extra Saiyan, a woman. But Raditz never had a sister. Turns out, now he does. Vegeta asks where they went. They went to fight Frieza. And then he bursts out in laughter. This kid has a really wild imagination. There's no way they're fighting Frieza. But he lets them know that his grandparents, his father, and his aunt are all Super Saiyans. And while they're gone, he's going to protect Earth. He hopes that these two aren't here to cause trouble. Vegeta's not sure how much he believes from what Garlic's saying, but the more he thinks about it, the more it makes sense. Frieza's army randomly decided to go after them, and it looks like they were sent to kill Vegeta and Nappa. It's almost like Frieza saw something that terrified him. Maybe he saw a Super Saiyan, or a few of them. They also heard a rumor that King Cold was killed, but they weren't sure that was true. But then Raditz appears. He sensed all this going on. And Vegeta and Nappa are kinda mad because Raditz never contacted them. He basically betrayed them, didn't he? That's not how it is, and they know it. But the two of them are kinda just in disbelief right now, and on top of that, with everything going on with Frieza, they're looking to pick a fight. Nappa's on edge. He tries to retaliate against Raditz, who's obviously not going to be able to defend himself against Nappa. But then, Garlic intervenes. With a single kick, he sends Nappa flying into the ground, dispatching him. It takes Vegeta by surprise, but then he goes in after Garlic, and the two of them start fighting, with Garlic pretty easily winning. Thanks to him having a different upbringing, he has trained more. He's learning to harness the rage that he has, but he's also a really good martial artist. Raditz knows he's outclassed here, but he tells the two of them that they could either join their side or die. Vegeta tells Raditz to not be stupid. They're not aligned with Frieza anymore. Especially if the guy's dead. Bardock's gonna do their dirty work for them. Sure, Vegeta's a bit mad to hear that some low-class warriors became Super Saiyans before him. Although he doesn't really believe that, but at the very least, he knows that King Cold and Frieza are gone. Bardock's crew has been waiting at the Frieza base for a few days by now, which is why Vegeta and Nappa got to Earth before Frieza got to that planet. At least, that's what they think. Right after this encounter with Vegeta, Nappa, Raditz, and Garlic, another ship lands on Earth. Raditz turns pale once he sees it, because it's no normal spaceship. It's Frieza's ship. Vegeta and Nappa turn around, and they look like they saw a ghost. Even though Garlic's the strongest of the four here right now, he also looks a bit terrified. The ship lands, and Frieza himself steps off. Well, it's a good thing he tracked down Vegeta and Nappa instead. He didn't realize that this is where they were going to. He thought maybe they were just going to some random planet, but it looks like they chose this place for a reason. They were colluding with the other Saiyans. They knew of them this entire time, didn't they? And they actually didn't, but that's what it looks like here, and it's not like they need to explain themselves here. Frieza's gonna kill them regardless of what the truth is. Raditz asks why he's here. Is he not gonna go avenge King Cold's death? And Frieza notices the scouter on his face. He tells him to turn it on. He wants those Super Saiyans to hear this message. Raditz turns on his scouter and activates video on it too. Frieza's now talking with Bardock directly again. These are the scouters from Earth, not the ones that the Frieza Horse uses. Bardock has his on him just so he can contact Earth in the meantime. And Frieza tells Bardock he's not stupid. He wasn't just going to walk into a trap. If King Cold truly did die against a bunch of Super Saiyans, why would Frieza go there? Sure, he did think about maybe just blowing them up from space, but he found out a better method. He was going to leave them waiting there while he figured out where they were staying this entire time. First, he wanted to just figure out where Vegeta and Nappa were going and deal with them, but it looks like he killed two birds with one stone because they went to the same place that Bardock was from. Bardock's mortified. He didn't think Frieza would find Earth. But as he starts thinking a little bit, he's not really that scared, although Bardock does pretend to have some level of fear. Frieza then tells Bardock to watch closely. He lifts up a hand and launches a blast right through Raditz' torso, purposefully not killing him, letting him lie there bleeding out. Frieza then goes to pick up Raditz' scouter and puts it on his face, looking over at Vegeta, Nappa, and Garlic. Now Bardock's fear turns into rage. Same for the rest of his family, especially Kakarot seeing Garlic in the crosshairs. Vegeta and Nappa try to attack Frieza, but he easily dispatches them. But then, Garlic stands up against him. He didn't think the monkeys would procreate some more, but he'll rectify that issue. Although, he's a little surprised when Garlic starts fighting. He's keeping up with his first form pretty well, and then Bardock lets Frieza in on a secret. They're not the only Super Saiyans around. They found this out with Ruda, who's someone that Frieza doesn't know about. It seems that when Saiyans grow up in safer environments, or they have Super Saiyan parents, then they're able to go Super Saiyan easier. And you know who both those things apply to? Garlic. He powers up, revealing that he's also a Super Saiyan, momentarily terrifying Frieza. This allows him to do a little bit well against Frieza, but that's just in his first form. He transforms, and then goes to attack Garlic, but another person grabs his arm. This is the main reason why Bardock wasn't scared. Piccolo shows up. He and Garlic start fighting together, forcing Frieza to go all the way into his final form. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa are stunned. They didn't even know Frieza had that many forms, much less a transformation in general. Granted, Garlic isn't that strong compared to Frieza, he was only really able to contend with his first and second forms, but Piccolo on the other hand is fighting him pretty fine. Piccolo says they don't need a Super Saiyan here. A Super Namekian is just as powerful. Frieza asks who this guy is, and he says he's the god of Earth. And he's not letting Frieza mess with his planet. Piccolo grabs Frieza's scouter and tosses it back to Raditz. Piccolo teleported here with Monaito as well, and Monaito heals Raditz up, though Frieza's attack will leave a scar on him. And Piccolo yells out to the scouter, telling Bardock he's sorry. He knows that he really wants to kill Frieza, but it looks like he can't really wait for Bardock here. Piccolo's gonna have to finish the job. And Bardock says that's fine. He just wants the guy dead, even if he's not the one to do it. Piccolo chuckles a bit. Great. Very well then. He and Garlic kill Frieza together. And just like that, the Emperor is stopped. By a Super Saiyan, but not the one he expected. Though, he was mainly killed by a Super Namekian. Bardock and his crew head back to Earth. They didn't really expect things to turn out like that, but it's a good thing Frieza's dead. On second thought, maybe they should have left some of their crew back on Earth just to be safe because they didn't think Frieza would be that strong. Though, when Bardock remembered that Piccolo was there, that's when he stopped caring. Piccolo is a rival to him after all. And he's not on Bardock's level, but he's definitely as strong as a Super Saiyan would be. Vegeta and Nappa can't believe what they just witnessed, and they're not really too sure what to do, but they stay here. They're gonna wait for Bardock because they want to meet the other Super Saiyans. They want to meet the legend, and his family. Partially because there's some Super Saiyans out there, but mainly because there's Saiyans out there in general. Bardock's crew eventually gets back. This includes his family, as well as Jocko and Granolah. But the first person to go up and meet Vegeta is actually Granolah, and then Jocko goes up to Nappa. The two of them restrain the Saiyans, putting them under arrest. And at first Bardock's a bit confused, but he's not really that surprised. He asks Granolah. This is because he's a Saiyan, isn't he? He remembers how Granolah felt when he encountered Raditz, and Granolah says it is because of that. Vegeta taunts him too. Just because he rides with the Super Saiyan doesn't mean he's that strong. But Granolah reminds Vegeta that he got beat up by a kid, and Granolah's stronger than that kid, by a lot. He might have been able to kill Frieza himself if he wanted, but Granolah tells Bardock, Vegeta's the prince, his father was the king, he directly led the Saiyans. And he does know that Frieza took control of the Saiyans and they didn't really have a say in the matter, but Granolah also knows that the Saiyans are still responsible for what they did. Not to mention, even without Frieza, they still were warmongers. Besides, he at least wants to arrest these two for their crimes as part of Frieza's army. He's not going to ask for permission. He let Raditz go, but for these two, there's no reason to let them go. And Bardock says fine. He gets it. He'd rather appease Granolah than a Saiyan that he barely knows. And Vegeta's annoyed at this betrayal, but Bardock reminds Vegeta how the elite treated the low-class Saiyans. Besides Nappa, he and Gine are the oldest Saiyans here. They lived on planet Vegeta for decades. They remember how it was. But also, they're not going to turn on their friend, nor are they going to go against the patrol's wishes. Fine. Vegeta says he'll find some way out. But before he does, he wants to see the Super Saiyan for himself. Not that child, the real one. Fine. Bardock powers up, then Gine, then Kakarot, then Ruda. It's a whole family of Super Saiyans, besides Raditz. Well then, he stands corrected. Vegeta says once they get out, it's pointless to go after these guys, because they're Super Saiyans. They're gonna have to become Super Saiyans on their own first. But on top of that, for killing King Cold and starting the rebellion against Frieza, they did earn Vegeta's respect. And he understands why they're not helping him out here. This catches Raditz by surprise. He didn't expect Vegeta to be that understanding. That's weird. Anyways, the two of them go to the Galactic Patrol prison, and after a few months, Nappa's able to talk his way out. He strikes a deal with them. First of all, Nappa says that he and Vegeta are very strong and strategic. They're soldiers after all, professionals. In exchange for freedom, they could work for the Galactic Patrol. Granola's against it, but Jocko and Mayris listen to them, curious at what they're getting at. Now, Nappa's not entirely sure, but judging by the other patrolmen, the three that he's looking at in front of him are exceptions. They're outliers. None of the other patrolmen are that strong. If any of them were on Earth instead of Jocko and Granolah, Vegeta and Nappa wouldn't have been captured. Face it, the patrol needs more muscle. They could use Saiyans. And Vegeta's kind of against this idea because he doesn't want to swallow his pride and work for someone else again, but he and Nappa have had some time to discuss this with each other, and this is why they're striking the deal. Their freedom is more important, and once they get out, they could become Super Saiyans, and they won't have to answer to anyone. If anything, this will be temporary. But on top of that, it's not just them trying to work for the patrol. Vegeta asks what crimes they've even been arrested for. Well, they went around destroying and taking over planets, but Vegeta asks what proof they have of that. And actually, Vegeta kinda has them there. The thing is, his work was so efficient that there were no witnesses. And with the Frieza Force pretty much destroyed, it's not like there's anyone there that knows about what they did either. For all they know, Vegeta and Nappa could have just been pencil pushers. They know that's not the case, but they have no clue what the two of them truly did. And they've been on good behavior here, mainly because they're trying to exploit this. This goes up to the Galactic King directly, and he thinks the two of them were unfairly arrested. Maybe they deserve some sort of trial or something. But on top of that, he likes their offer. He'll call them Patrol on Parole. They'll work for the Patrol, and this way they don't have to be locked up. But Granolah tries to argue that they definitely are criminals. The king does agree with this, but he tells Granolah to consider three things. For one, if they can't prove exactly what they did, it's not really fair. 2, they were basically treated like slaves by Frieza. And 3, he knows Granolah is partially doing this out of his desire for revenge against the Saiyans. And Granolah's definitely grown past that by this point. He's developed a real sense of justice. This isn't just because of them being Saiyans. It's because they work directly under Frieza. But the king says this might be good for Granolah too. He can keep them under watch, and if they actually do anything bad, he gives Granolah free reign to do whatever he wants. He could be their parole officer. And actually, Granolah kinda chuckles at that idea. It'll definitely knock Vegeta down a few pegs. Monaito talks to him about this too. He's still driven by that past. Vegeta and Nappa weren't the ones on that planet. Now, it is fair to hold them responsible for what else they did. But does Granolah remember that Bardock was also the same type of person? Same for Gine. They were soldiers before. Why was Bardock on planet Cereal in the first place? The only two innocent Saiyans are Kakarot and Ruda, and they have blood on their hands too. Granted, when they slaughtered the Red Ribbon Army, it was justified, but still. He's not saying Granolah's wrong for hating them or wanting to keep them locked up, but he's more so worried about Granolah holding on to those feelings. So, Vegeta and Nappa become patrolmen, at least temporarily, and they're going to spend most of their time training. But there is also another Saiyan on Earth, Raditz. He grows more accustomed with the planet. He gets to know his brother and sister a lot more because he never got to in the first place. Also, he needs some new Earth clothes, and while Bardock was gone, he found some interesting clothes in his closet. Now, his parents only wear their armor, while Ruda and Kakarot wear more Earth-like clothes. And Raditz is going to do what they did. He tries it on. Gine says that he looks like a biker. A biker? What's that? Raditz then learns what motorcycles are. That sounds fun. And thankfully, he gets to enjoy some peacetime on Earth too. There's no androids, there's not a heart virus for Kakarot, and there's no time traveler. With the Red Ribbon Army completely wiped out, none of that's an issue. Bardock trains even further with his family. They've been trying to go beyond Super Saiyan for a while, and by this point of the story, I feel like they've definitely at least achieved the first part of it, which is mastering the form. Bardock has mastered Super Saiyan years ago. I'd say he did this before he even met Piccolo. Considering how long it's been, that's part of why Bardock was so strong and so untouchable. And actually, when fighting King Cold, Bardock had already accessed Super Saiyan 2. In case Frieza was too strong, he wanted to make sure he can go beyond Super Saiyan. Just as a little extra insurance, he unlocked Super Saiyan 2 right before Raditz showed up. Though, he didn't even need it in the first place, because he as a Super Saiyan was strong enough to fight King Cold and Frieza, and he had a whole family of Super Saiyans. Too bad he didn't actually get to fight Frieza. But the rest of his family has mastered Super Saiyan, and they probably have Super Saiyan 2 by now as well. Raditz of course is behind, and he's going to take some time to get Super Saiyan. He doesn't even have the regular one yet, much less the mastered version of it. But thanks to being surrounded by a bunch of Super Saiyans, it shouldn't be too tough to get him caught up to speed. So there's nothing with the androids, no heart virus, no time travel, no cell, none of that. After Frieza's defeat, that means nearly a decade of peace, at least if things went normally. We'll get more into that later. But we are in a period of peace, so what's happening now? Vegeta and Nappa are liabilities for the patrol. They obviously don't have a sense of justice, but they are getting used to their job, and they work for free. Plus, they love fighting, so they're pretty good for the patrol. Although they do have a habit of picking fights where there wouldn't be fights in the first place, and killing people rather than capturing them. Mainly because they try and instigate the people they're going after, and then once the fight starts, they have the authority to kill. The patrol's not too sure it's a good idea to have them around, but at the same time, a lot of the patrolmen are pretty weak, so when they're fighting stronger criminals, it is good to have Vegeta and Nappa there. Like, for example, there's one prisoner locked away named Moro who no one can kill, and maybe if they keep Vegeta and Nappa around long enough, even with Moro's weird abilities, they could execute him. That's what the patrol wants to do with Moro anyways. But that'll have to come later down the line. Mayris is pretty intrigued by all the mortals around him. Granolah, the Saiyans on Earth, the Saiyans in the patrol, viewing how they go about life and their different philosophies on things. The mortals are pretty fun to study because of that. Speaking of Vegeta, he definitely would go between Earth and the Galactic Patrol every now and then. Partially because I feel like he'd be assigned to the part of the universe where Earth is, but also because he wants to go there. There's Super Saiyans there. He wants to figure out how to get the form for himself, and he picks fights with the Super Saiyans on Earth occasionally. Partially to test himself, partially to see how the form works, and partially because he just wants to fight. And eventually this does help him and Nappa unlock Super Saiyan, but it also has a side effect for Vegeta. He gets a lot closer with Bulma, and eventually, the two of them get together just like normal. Probably a little later than normal, but still, together. And speaking of couples, let's go over to Kakarot. He has another kid. This would be Goten, but he's not going to be called Goten here. What would his name be? Well, I'm going to get a little lazy with this one. His name will be Kakarot Jr., and I think it's fitting because he looks exactly like the rest of the family line, so why not have him actually named after his father? The second he sees that hairstyle, he realizes that he's going to go with Kakarot or Bardock for the name. And hey, after all, Goku did name Gohan after Grandpa Gohan, so it's not like he's exactly original with that name either. At least Garlic got an original one here. As for Ruta, she's obviously gone to school and everything, and even graduated college. And growing up with a rich family, she doesn't really need a traditional job. She could just pursue whatever she wants to, whatever makes her happy. She becomes interested in the nature on Earth, and eventually, she takes up a job as a park ranger. Especially with how strong she is, she makes a really good fit for that, protecting an island with a bunch of rare animals on it. But a few years into this role, she ends up meeting someone, a fellow ranger named Lapis. This would be Android 17, but he never becomes an android here. He lived a normal life, and he still wants to protect animals. I feel like his personality would be pretty similar, like not the exact same as Android 17 because he didn't have all that messed up stuff happening in his life, but at the very least he's going to have similar interest and it would lead him here. And you know, he's not a modified human, so he's not going to be strong. He's actually just as strong as a normal human, but Ruta ends up teaching him about Ki, and he learns a little bit about it. He'd be more like Fidel, if anything, where he could use Ki, but he's not particularly strong, at least relative to the people around him. Compared to a normal human, yeah, a lot stronger. The two of them get a lot closer. And, coincidentally, Krillin also meets somebody else, Lazuli. Now, Krillin's actually not that close with the family, at least not just yet. He meets Lazuli naturally, and the two of them become a couple. One day he meets her brother, and he's incredibly surprised to see that he's dating Ruta. Even though Krillin doesn't know her well, he remembers her from the tournaments. She's one of the strongest people on Earth, and he's pretty surprised to see that, well, that's a couple. And neither couples are married yet, but eventually this would mean that the two of them are sorta related, by marriage at least. Speaking of Krillin though, I feel like at some point he would seek out Kakarot, remembering him as one of the strongest people on Earth and the World Tournament champ, twice. Now of course there's Mr. Satan who won the next World Tournament. Kakarot didn't show up to that one. Nor did Krillin either, but he could tell that guy's kind of a phony. But seeing the fame that Mr. Satan got, it makes him wonder why Kakarot never pursued that type of fame either. The good thing is he does know Kakarot through Roshi because Garlic became Roshi's student, so Krillin actually knows Garlic decently enough. So he finds Kakarot and he fights him, just trying to test out his own power as well as Kakarot's. And Kakarot's a lot stronger than him. Not even with Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2, just in base alone. He far surpasses Krillin. Although, he is really interested in Krillin's power. For a normal human, he's pretty powerful. And Krillin asks if he could train with Kakarot a bit. He does want to become the strongest he could possibly be, and what better thing to do than train with the strongest person on Earth? Kakarot laughs at this. He's actually not the strongest person on Earth. Bardock is still above him, and even Piccolo is too. Kakarot's more like a solid number 3. But sure, if Krillin thinks he's the strongest on Earth, he'll go along with that. And he has no problem sparring with Krillin. They could even get Garlic involved just so he can get some better experience. So even with how different Kakarot's life is here, he still does cross paths with Krillin, and it takes a little bit longer, but he eventually forms somewhat of a bond with him. And also they are vaguely related because Krillin will be Kakarot's brother-in-law's brother-in-law. Wow, that is weird to say. As for Raditz, he lives a bachelor life. Unlike his siblings, he grew up like a regular Saiyan, and he isn't used to forming romantic bonds like those people on Earth. After all, Bardock and Gine were kind of abnormal for Saiyans. Those type of relationships didn't normally pop up. Thankfully, they fit in pretty well on Earth. As for Raditz though, he's pretty much a standard Saiyan. Though while he doesn't have romantic bonds, he still can mingle with women and he becomes more of a heartbreaker. He basically becomes a spoiled trust fund kid who loves to party. He has rich parents, and he works, probably doing a job with his hands like carpentry. But he doesn't need to. He just does that to kill time, and the rest of the time, he has fun, enjoying his new peaceful life here. Otherwise, he is training. And Nappa's mostly focused on his job with the patrol, eventually taking it a little more seriously. He also keeps his normal Saiyan ideals, and he doesn't end up living on Earth. Vegeta, on the other hand, does at some point. Nappa kind of just goes around space, and he becomes kind of an underling to Granolah. Granolah really hated Nappa and Vegeta at first, but he's grown more used to them. It looks like they're at least making an effort to change, which he likes. Granolah is focused on work. He becomes the highest ranking galactic patrolman. He trains a lot with Maris, who wants him to work on his emotions and focus more. Granolah gets a new form as well. Of course, Cerealians don't have any extra forms in the manga besides that double red-eyed form, and Granolah has that by this point, but I've done this in another scenario before where I gave him a new form for himself, Super Cerealian. He bases the name off Super Saiyan because it's the easiest thing he could think of, but it is different. It's not just a regular power-up. After unlocking the double red eyes a while ago, he ascended beyond that. Now the double red eyes does give him a boost in power, but not a major boost. This, on the other hand, is an actual big boost. I'd say Super Cerealian is stronger than Super Saiyan, but a little bit weaker than Super Saiyan 2. This form also does enhance all of Granolah's senses, the regular 5 that everyone has, and then his ki sensing as well. His eyesight is already pretty much maxed out, but now he could use other things in combat that he wouldn't normally use. His sense of touch, smell, hearing, and I guess taste, but I don't know how he would use that in combat. And then enhanced ki sensing is a really big boost. But with all of these strong people on Earth, there is one downside. Babidi starts collecting energy a lot earlier on Earth, and even just passively, he's getting a lot more than normal. He has so much by this point, and he doesn't want to wait for the tournament. He's going to strike now. About 2 years before he would normally strike, Babidi makes his move, and he decides to go after one of the Saiyans. On Monster Island, the newlywed Ruda and Lapis are doing their normal daily jobs. Lapis encounters a guy who's dressed really weirdly. He thinks at first it's just a normal poacher, but once he sees the guy's face, he realizes he's no normal poacher. Ruda's not too far away, but she hears a gunshot. And then a few more, followed by some ki blasts as well. Lapis realized that his gun didn't work against this guy, and then his ki blast didn't either. She finds a statue of her husband, and then sees a demonic-looking man standing there, Dabura. She instantly goes Super Saiyan 2 out of rage and starts fighting him. She's strong enough to contend with Dabura, but not kill him outright, which is perfect. He could drag out the battle and get a bunch of energy from this. And at some point he does end up turning her into stone, waiting for others to show up. He can only fight one of them at once. If another shows up, he's gonna lose. And it's good he did this because 2 other Saiyans show up right after, Kakarot and Garlic. They sense this and Kakarot immediately jump to help her. But they're confused seeing her and Lapis as statues. Kakarot has a scouter with him too and communicates with all the other Saiyans, as well as those on the patrol. They're very proactive when any threats come to Earth because they don't know what to expect sometimes. So he calls all of his friends over and also sends them a live video feed. Now, no one knows who this guy is, except for Maris. He gets the video feed and he knows of Dabura, and he knows what's about to happen. They're surprised he knows so much, but he explains. This guy's from the demon realm, and that symbol on his forehead, it seems to be related to Majin Buu. But why? Kakarot and Garlic fight Dabura in Super Saiyan 2, and they kill him pretty easily. I mean, when you got 2 Super Saiyan 2s there, it's not really that hard. When they kill Dabura, Ruda and Lapis recover. They still are injured, but they're at least not statues anymore. But Babidi doesn't care. He's watching on and he's pleased. He's got more than enough energy. The others all rush over and try and figure out what happened, but they're lost. Until they sense a terrifying presence far away. Majin Buu awakens, immediately starting to terrorize everything under the command of Babidi. Everyone rushes over. Bardock's family, Vegeta, Nappa, Granolah, and even Piccolo, who teleports down from the lookout. He actually rounds everyone up and teleports them right over to Babidi once he gets involved. At first they encounter Pui Pui and Yakon, but they kill those 2 really easily. But Majin Buu's gonna be a problem. Maybe with everyone together they should be fine. Like, Buu seems really powerful, but surely with their combined strength it shouldn't be an issue. Though what they don't realize is that Buu has magic on his side. He has abilities that they can't really contend with. Babidi also knows that Bardock is an issue. He's the strongest one here, so Babidi tells Buu to turn him into candy, which he does. They don't expect it, and they have no way to counter it. And Gine's right next to him, and she also gets hit with a candy beam. Buu eats them, and then, weirdly enough, he gets a huge boost of power. Babidi didn't expect this, but even though Buu just ate them, it looks like they were so strong that he actually absorbed their power. And now he's hungry for more candy. Both baffled and angered, Bardock and Gine's kids respond accordingly. Garlic as well. They all jump into Super Saiyan 2, with Raditz having just recently unlocked this. And weirdly enough, Garlic gets a bigger boost in power than they do. They've noticed this for a while. Garlic has had some weird relationship with his rage where he gets stronger than the average Saiyan does, probably due to him being a hybrid Saiyan. They're not too sure why, but they've definitely explored it by now. But even with the 4 of them in Super Saiyan 2 and a boosted Garlic, it's not enough. Boo is really strong, and having Bardock and Gine's power doesn't help. Granolah is able to take advantage of the chaos though. With one clean sniper shot, he's able to take out Bobbity, who throws up a barrier really quickly, but it's not strong enough to defend against Granolah. He wipes out the wizard thinking that this will help, and it is necessary, but also it means Boo is now uncontrolled. Without Bardock, Piccolo's now the strongest, and he tries to face Boo, who also realizes that Piccolo might be an issue, especially with his magical abilities. He's turned into candy, and then Boo launches another random candy beam, hitting Nappa. He shouldn't have come into work today. Boo eats those pieces of candy, and he doesn't digest them. He absorbs them. Granolah could see this too. He observes Boo, realizing they're alive. Also because Boo then transforms, undergoing a change where he becomes a lot smarter and a lot stronger than before. He got so much extra power that he just turned into Super Boo. Vegeta, Kakarot and his siblings, Garlic, and Granolah are the only ones left. Majin Buu is too strong. They've grown so used to being incredibly strong, barely ever being challenged in their lives. Kakarot's thinking back on it, and he remembers Krillin. Sure, they've worked just as hard as Krillin, probably even harder than he has, but Krillin's faced a ton of challenges in his life. He was never the top dog. He always had to really fight to be where he wanted to be. Kakarot never got the same lessons that the Turtle School gave to Goku, teaching him that he's not infallible. Vegeta and Nappa have been humbled before, and of course Raditz has too. But Kakarot and Ruda never have. They thought they could win any fight that they wanted to. Vegeta didn't expect to encounter anything like this. But over time, Vegeta had to learn how to pick battles to fight and battles to avoid. He's not as overconfident as those two. It's a fatal flaw they've never overcome. 2 people appear out of nowhere, Shin and Kibito. They didn't expect Bobbity to strike this early, and Shin had to act fast. He tells everyone to come with them. Obviously they don't know who this guy is. But on top of that, Kakarot and Ruda don't want to leave. Raditz tells them they have to go. Even though they don't know who this guy is, they're probably better off going with him than staying here and fighting Boo. He tells them to not be stupid. But they tell Raditz they're not running from this. They could win this fight. Raditz says he's not going to lose them too. As their older brother, he's going to drag them along, no matter what it takes. The two keep fighting, but Raditz then charges all of his power, and he's able to catch Kakarot with an attack off guard, punching his brother hard enough to knock him out. This just further angers Ruda, who's about to fight Raditz, her own brother. She tells Raditz again she's not going. She's going to kill this guy, and Raditz isn't going to get in the way. But then her hair turns back to normal, and she falls to the ground unconscious. Granola's standing behind her, having sniped one of her vital points, knocking her out. He also views the 2 of them as younger siblings, so he's going to watch out for them like Raditz. Even though Garlic is controlled by his rage sometimes, he's more level-headed when it comes to fights, so he doesn't need much convincing. And Vegeta goes along with it because everyone else is going to. Shin and Kibito teleport everyone away, with Boo left really confused, going around destroying even more. Though as they're transported away, Granola's pretty concerned. They're not sure of the status of Piccolo's dragon, and he remembers Monaito's dragon isn't active anymore now that Piccolo's fully assumed the role of Guardian again. And if anything happens to Monaito or Piccolo, or the planet, they're not going to have any Dragon Balls to bring anyone back. At least not on Earth. And they're going to have to really come up with a plan fast. Kakarot wakes up on the sacred world of Kai. He's calmed down now, and thanks to Raditz, he's alive. Though he tells his brother he didn't have to hit him so hard. Ruda regains consciousness too, and she kind of feels the same way. Garlic says they still have all their friends and family on Earth too. They can't be gone for too long. Boo's already making his way around destroying everything. Thankfully he's taking his time right now just to draw everybody out. But they all have someone on Earth that they worry about. Maybe they should bring Monaito here. It's going to be risky going back to Earth right now, but they have to at least get him. Because his Dragon Balls are inactive right now, but maybe if they get him here, he could reactivate Taranbo, which means they can kill Boo with no problems. They won't have to worry about killing Piccolo and deactivating his Shenron. Kakarot's not really too sure he likes that idea. Yeah, he wants to kill Boo, but it's not going to feel right killing Boo knowing that Piccolo, Bardock, Gine, and Nappa are all going to die in the process, but they have no choice. How are they supposed to get strong enough to fight Boo, though? Too bad for them if they had an extra Super Saiyan here, they would have an accidental Super Saiyan God, but nobody knows about that obviously. Otherwise, Goten or Trunks could help. They actually do have enough for the ritual. Granolah says that Monaito also can't defend himself like Piccolo can, so they should probably get him quick. Shin says it shouldn't take too long, so he and Granolah teleport to Earth, quickly grabbing Monaito and teleporting back. Boo instantly senses this and flies up to the lookout. He thinks he knows where they retreated to, but he's gonna wait here. He could join them on the sacred world of Kai, but this is more fun. Monaito's now safe, but he is mortified. Boo has already wiped out so much of Earth, and he's only been left on his own for a few minutes. But he does have his 2 inactive Dragon Balls on him, so he'll work on bringing Taranbo back just in case. Meanwhile, everyone's trying to grow stronger, and Shin has pointed them towards the Z-Sword. Kakarot's actually the one to pull it. In Super Saiyan 2, he has just enough power to free it. And since he was the one to pull it, he's the one who's actually going to be training with it. He trains with it for a little bit, and then eventually ends up breaking it thanks to having Shin help too. Well, there goes their last hope. Kakarot barely even got to swing the sword around. But this of course frees Elder Kai, who learns about the situation and decides to help out. He actually has 2 ideas for how they can get strong enough to fight Buu. One of them is awakening the potential of someone here, although there is an issue with that. They only have time for a ritual for 1 person, maybe 2. They don't know how much longer until Buu just destroys everything at once, especially since no one's there on Earth keeping him busy. Kakarot, Ruta, and Vegeta aren't really too keen on taking a shortcut in their power. Raditz is actually kind of up for it because it could let him catch up to the others. Granolah also volunteers too, and so does Garlic, especially because Elder Kai notes Garlic's great potential. Well, they're not going to have enough time for the 3 of them, especially someone like Garlic who might take longer. But Granolah does have one idea. They could use the time chamber on Earth. Sure, it means they're going to have to go back to Earth right now, but doing a ritual in the time chamber only takes a few minutes on the outside. The others can probably buy time against Buu. It is very dangerous, but it's their only option, and they all think this is the best course of action. Plus, with this, Elder Kai will be able to awaken 3 people at once. And he also does have a backup plan, explaining the Patara earrings to everyone, just in case they don't get enough power from this. 2 of the warriors can fuse, although it's going to be permanent, but that fusion is probably strong enough to handle Buu. So once more, they all teleport back to Earth, with Elder Kai immediately going to the time chamber with Garlic, Raditz, and Granolah. Buu senses them return and they immediately jump off the lookout. Kakarot, Ruta, and Vegeta hold Buu off on the surface. He's glad to see they're back, but he wonders where their friends are. He guesses it doesn't matter. Whatever tricks they have up their sleeve, it's not going to work against him. He's grown so powerful by now that they have no chance at winning. There's no way they can grow strong enough in that little bit of time. Kakarot says he's not so sure about that, but obviously he's not going to tell Buu their plan. These 3 start fighting, and with just 3 of them, it's probably going to be really hard to hold off Buu, but they only need to buy a few minutes, and they think they could do that. Buu is still toying around with them, and it's probably going to be a really painful few minutes, but they're going to do whatever it takes. The 3 of them all fight together in Super Saiyan 2, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to buy enough time. They last a few minutes against Buu, and he gets bored. He'll find the other fighters to make this more interesting, and he doesn't care if he has to tear this planet apart to do so. He'll kill these 3 as well. Maybe it'll draw them out. Buu rips off a few pieces of himself and throws it at each of the fighters, trying to restrain them, but the slices are cut in half midair. And then a disc of energy cuts right through Buu's torso. Had he been on guard, that attack would have done nothing to him, but he's been playing around this entire time and he didn't expect another fighter to join. When Kakarot sees this, he knows immediately who's there, but he doesn't think it's going to help much. It's Krillin. Buu repairs himself, but then he's kicked by somebody else. Mayris has arrived too. They need to help in any way they can. Krillin knows his power's probably not going to add too much, but he's not going to back down. And that's something Kakarot really admires about him. He thanks Krillin for showing up, but Kakarot says they just need another few minutes. Although Mayris does actually make a big difference, because even without showing his full power as an angel, he still is a very powerful addition to the group, and Kakarot notices this. He didn't know Mayris was that strong, and Vegeta's not really too surprised. He's seen him fight before. Vegeta's only the 3rd strongest patrolman right now, surpassed by Granolah and Mayris. Even Buu's surprised. He tries to absorb Mayris too because, while the others don't have power that interests him, he wants to see what Mayris is capable of, though he isn't able to absorb him. It's almost like Mayris' body moves on instinct. And he's hiding his full power, but still able to use Ultra Instinct like this. Not that anyone even knows what that is yet. And finally, they've done what they needed to. Garlic, Granolah, and Raditz all leave the time chamber. Raditz doesn't look much different than normal. Same for Granolah. He looks like he's just in his normal double red-eyed form. As for Garlic, his hair is standing up as if he's a Super Saiyan, but it's black. Each of them is now in their ultimate forms. For Granolah, this draws out the power of Super Cerulean while in ultimate. This really does turn the tide of the battle. Buu still surpasses everyone here, even with 3 ultimate fighters. But now with the combined power of everybody, they might actually be able to topple him. The issue is, it's still not enough to completely overwhelm him. So, Kakarot decides to go for the other plan. He hands a Patara earring to Ruta, placing one on his ear as she gets ready to place the other on hers. It is still really weird to think about though, because this should let them win, but they're going to be permanently fused. The 2 siblings are close, but they don't like the thought of being merged together forever. And just as she places her earring on, a full power blast from Buu cuts right through her torso. Buu's been toying with them this whole time, but now he's not playing any games. He knows he has to kill them off one by one, and he wants to show them how easy that is for him. And Ruta doesn't stand a chance against this blast. She falls to the ground, dying pretty much immediately. Raditz and Garlic feel an immense rage from this, and show off more power against Buu. But Kakarot has a bit of a different reaction. Next, Buu aims for Garlic, but Kakarot jumps back in the battle, basically blinded by his rage. His aura explodes, and something changes about his form. His hair grows out significantly. It looks like in the heat of the battle, he's ascended beyond Super Saiyan 2. They've never seen a form like this before, but this is Super Saiyan 3. And thanks to Kakarot still having his tail, there's no drawback with this form. But as he continues fighting, Raditz grabs onto Kakarot. He tells him to not succumb to his rage. Fight with clarity. Use that new power to its fullest. Don't let her death be in vain. And remember, they could still bring her back. Boo then stretches both of his arms out, grabbing onto Granolah and Raditz. Maybe he won't kill these two. He'll absorb both of them instead. He spins his head around too, launching a mouth blast at Kakarot and Garlic, launching them halfway across the planet, keeping them both away for now. Working quickly, Vegeta tries to copy Krillin's technique, slicing off both of Boo's arms. And then he grabs onto Boo, flying up in the air. He tells Raditz and Kakarot they owe him for this, and they're not too sure what Vegeta's planning, but he's gonna buy them some time with whatever way he can. If they don't win this battle, they're gonna die anyway, so why not put his life on the line? Granolah tells Vegeta to not be stupid, but he's not being stupid. This'll give him the time they need to do that earring thing. A brilliant glow surrounds Vegeta as he flies further up into the air, still holding on to Boo. Boo frees himself, but he turns over to Vegeta, who then explodes, self-destructing and unleashing all of his ki. This actually does some significant damage to Boo, nothing he can't regenerate from of course, but Vegeta didn't expect to kill Boo here. Raditz and Granolah can't believe it. He sacrificed himself just to buy them a little bit of extra time, and Raditz doesn't waste any of that time. Kakarot's back, and he isn't concerned about Vegeta. He knows he and Ruda will be brought back. And just as Boo fully regenerates, Raditz and Kakarot complete their fusion. Thank Vegeta. And Vegeta was right. If they're gonna die, why hold anything back? Use their full power. Merge together permanently if they need to. Boo flies back down towards the ground, aiming an attack right at the two brothers, but just as he gets close to the ground, they vanish, merging together and then appearing right in front of him, catching Boo by his antenna midair. Boo shouldn't be as cocky as he is. All of that power of his, that comes from their parents and Piccolo. So this guy's gonna have to make Boo pay for it. A key sword pierces through Boo, extending out far into the distance. Then it's drawn up, slicing him directly in half, and everyone gets a clear view of the fusion. A new fighter born from two brothers. This is Kakarot. And he doesn't look like he's using any transformation, but he is. He's an ultimate right now, drawing out the power of the newly awoken Super Saiyan 3, as well as Raditz's max power of course. And with the two of them being brothers, they get a pretty nice boost from the fusion. It's incredibly compatible. Boo puts himself back together, but Kakarot grabs the two pieces of Boo, slamming them back together, discombobulating him. That's for Nappa. Then punching him in the head so hard that it takes Boo's head clean off. That's for Piccolo. Then grabbing onto his head and slamming it into his headless body. That's for their mother. His legs then surrounded by a ton of ki, kicking Boo up into the air. As Boo is launched into space, Kakarot then appears above him, delivering another kick and sending him down to the surface. That's for their father. Kakarot charges a blast in one hand. This is for Ruda. Then one in his other hand. This is for Vegeta. He then launches down towards the surface at full power, with the two ki blasts trailing behind him. He then draws both of his arms in front of him, performing his ultimate move. The Kakarot side of him wanted to use that one technique that he likes, merging it with a technique of Raditz's. This is a double Sunday Kamehameha. The remaining fighters watch on. A purple and a blue ki blast launch down from above, swirling together, completely incinerating Boo. Precise enough to not damage Earth either. The explosion knocks everybody away, but once the smoke clears, Kakarot is standing there in a crater, looking around to make sure nothing of Boo is left. And with Granolah's great vision, he confirms it. Boo is completely gone. Kakarot is glad about his victory, but even though he's going to be able to bring everyone back, he still feels kind of weird about it. Boo killed Ruda and caused Vegeta to self-destruct, but Kakarot technically was the one to kill the other four. Also, Garlic's a bit confused too. Does this mean Kakarot is his dad and uncle at the same time now? Oh yeah, he forgot he's going to be fused together permanently. Monaito awaits on the lookout, and he's already reactivated Taranbo. He wishes to revive every good person killed by Boo today. And with Piccolo back, they're going to use his dragon to restore all the damage done by Boo, and he's upgraded his dragon to have extra wishes. Kakarot is still fused, and he's about to use another wish to unfuse him, but thankfully, Kakarot defuses on his own. Shin and Kibito are now present, and Elder Kai was on the lookout this entire time after coming to Earth. Oh, looks like the fusion isn't permanent, at least maybe for mortals. And Piccolo thanks Monaito for his help. He's glad he's still there as a mentor, and also looking out for him. And Krillin is kind of weirded out watching this because he knows of Piccolo, but he never got to know him really well, and it's strange seeing him act so kind and respectful after what Roshi told him about the Demon King. Granolah goes over to Vegeta and thanks him for what he did. He never would have expected Vegeta to put his life down on the line for him. But Vegeta tells him to shut up. It wasn't for Granolah. It was for everyone. And Granolah chuckles a bit. The patrol might have actually changed him. He's become a lot more selfless. Ruda hugs her two brothers and thanks them for winning the battle. And she apologizes for scaring them by dying. Though she does wonder how a fusion between her and Kakarot would work. How strong would it be? Also, what happens when a guy and a girl fuse? And Kakarot says he's not going to attempt that. He doesn't know why he and Raditz defused, but for all he knows it could have been a fluke, and he doesn't want to risk merging with anyone again. And Bardock and Gine are proud of their kids for solving this. Bardock is a little saddened though, because this is the first time in a while that he's lost a fight outright, and the fact that his power was actively used against them. But it's not like he could have known Boo's powers anyways. He just wishes he got a chance to fight that bastard, but whatever. At least his kids got some good experience out of it, even if his two sons had to kill him and Gine. He won't hold it against them. And then Raditz looks over at Maris. He notices the same weirdness that Kakarot did too. It's not like he senses anything different from him, but he still wonders why Maris was so powerful in that fight. And even when he was helping them, it seemed like he was still holding back. Maris didn't want to get actively involved. Even when just using his mortal powers, he was above anyone there. And Raditz noticed during the battle that Maris eventually fell back from the fight, just watching on instead. It's like he just came there to save them. And Maris notices Raditz observing him. Granolah also sees that Raditz is thinking the same thing he once did. Maris just smirks at them. He tells Raditz he's pretty keen, but leaves it at that, then boarding his ship and returning back to the patrol. Jock goes on the ship with him, glad that he didn't have to join that battle, but he would have if he needed to. Even though most of the crew died today, and most of the planet, it still ended in a victory. And on top of that, Raditz, Garlic, and Granolah have new powers, with Kakarot unlocking a new Super Saiyan form of his own. He shows it off to Bardock, who looks a little bit surprised. Oh, so Kakarot finally unlocked that. What does he mean finally? Bardock then shows off his own Super Saiyan 3. He hasn't had this for too long, like probably a year or so. But Kakarot then gets mad. He never showed him this and he's had it for a year? Well, he was going to use it against Boo, but then Boo absorbed him. He didn't expect that. No wonder Boo got so strong when he absorbed Bardock. Kakarot thought for once he'd be the strongest, but nope, Bardock is still on his level. Far away, a godly figure awakens. Beerus has awoken from his slumber. He was told that at this time, pretty much right after Boo was defeated, his rival would draw near. And he had a strange dream about something like that. Whis tells him about the Super Saiyan and how he escaped Frieza and eventually killed him. So that guy reawakened a legend. Maybe that's Beerus' rival. Beerus awakens way earlier than normal. The Boo Saga happened earlier than normal here too, by a couple of years. And I'm going to say Beerus awakens around the time when the Boo Saga actually is supposed to happen, maybe a few months after. The reason he's awakening so early is because his rival is on the horizon. He knows a Super Saiyan God is going to arrive soon, so that's exactly what he looks for. He goes straight to Earth. Apparently, there's a bunch of Saiyans there. Of course, most of the Saiyans are dead, and this is pretty much where they're all concentrated at the moment. When he gets there, the first thing he does is fight everybody. A few of the Saiyans probably would recognize him. Obviously Vegeta would, and I would assume Nappa would too. And Raditz might also know from Vegeta, but he's probably a little confused too. But Bardock and Gine probably would have heard of him at least, because he visited the planet while they were around. Sure, they probably didn't see him in person, but they might know of his existence at least. Thankfully, Beerus is in a good mood because he does arrive around Bulma's birthday. I'm guessing she would throw a big celebration every year. And while it hasn't been that long after the Boo Saga, still, most of the fighters have seen an increase in strength. Kakarot and Bardock still have Super Saiyan 3 and have worked on that more. Thankfully, them keeping their tails means the form is actually useful to them. Garlic has hit its growth spurt, and he still has Ultimate, obviously. And he's pretty strong with that. Raditz too. Ruda also has Super Saiyan 3 by now, and I would say Vegeta and Nappa have it too. Of course, all the other fighters are strong too. Beerus is only interested in the Saiyans, but Granolah obviously has Ultimate, and Piccolo's pretty strong as is. But no one particularly interests him here. Monaito actually intervenes and has a pretty good idea though. He doesn't have a huge grasp on this book, but he knows that the Namekians had a book of legends. And if anything, that book would know about a Super Saiyan God, if it does exist. So they have two options. They could either go to Namek and go read that book if it still does exist, or they could just summon Shenron or Taranbo. Thankfully, both the dragons are active right now. Following the Boo Saga, they decided to keep a backup of the Dragon Balls just in case. So they have two dragons, and they decide to just summon Taranbo because he's easier to collect. And he actually does have info about the Super Saiyan God. A Saiyan can awaken into his Super Saiyan God by training with Godly Ki, or by doing a ritual. Beerus doesn't really want to wait for them to train, so they're going to do a ritual. But who's going to be the target for it though? Well, no one really wants to take the shortcut here. Like, even Raditz, who got the ultimate form, probably wouldn't be up for it because he already did take a shortcut. But still, there's a lot of power at stake, so it is kind of worth it. But Beerus makes the decision. Since Bardock was the original Super Saiyan, at least among this group, he wants him to be the first Super Saiyan God as well, because he also seems to be the strongest among this group too. Naturally, it makes sense to make him the Super Saiyan God. So, Bardock receives the ritual. Thankfully, they have more than enough Saiyans. Kakarot, Gine, Ruda, Raditz, and Garlic are the ones who actually give him the power. There's also Vegeta, Nappa, and Trunks on standby too in case they need. But the ritual ends up working the first try, with Bardock becoming the Super Saiyan God. And he ends up fighting Beerus. He's still not nearly close to Beerus' level, but Beerus is still impressed with what he sees. But it's not enough to overcome Beerus. Beerus wants to learn more about Bardock. How did he become the first Super Saiyan? Apparently he wasn't even the one to defeat Frieza. He killed King Cold though, but Bardock says he was out to kill Frieza. It's just that he ended up coming to Earth and Piccolo was the one to finish that. He tells Beerus the story of how he first became a Super Saiyan. Apparently, that Cerulean on Earth that Beerus didn't even acknowledge, that's someone Bardock was trying to save. Interesting. It makes sense that Bardock's a righteous Saiyan then. Well, Bardock says he wasn't exactly righteous back then. He was on that planet to destroy it. Something came over him that day, and he's changed since then. But Beerus finds it pretty interesting. Bardock used to be a typical Saiyan set on destruction, but Kakarot, Raditz, Gine, Granolah, Monaito, everyone around him has changed him. Well, Beerus says that there is a lot of power that comes from destruction. At some point he's going to need a successor to be the next god of destruction too, but that's way beyond now. It's just something for Bardock to consider. Beerus ends up finishing the fight, obviously winning this one, but he'll definitely be coming back to Earth for the food, and to see Bardock again. Bardock will be his new rival. At some point, Bardock does go to train with Beerus and Whis, and slowly more of the Saiyans join along. Kakarot's the first one, then Raditz and Ruda join together, and it takes a bit of time, but Vegeta and Nappa are eventually able to come along too, leaving their patrol duties. While they do have an agreement to work for the patrol, in order to earn their freedom, they let it slide because it's going to let them grow stronger and the patrol will have more strong troops because of it. But everyone else's life stays pretty much like normal. Garlic on Earth is more Saiyan-like obviously, but he still does have Chi-Chi as a mother and a lot of the same influences around him. He still goes to school, especially because his father actually did here too, and I feel like he'd still aim to become a scholar like Gohan. He did have a very different upbringing, and he does have a different outlook on fighting too, but he still does act more like a human overall. Gine's the one adult Saiyan that doesn't actually go to Beerus' planet. She actually becomes a teacher for Trunks and Kakarot Jr., showing them new types of powers. She never was much of a fighter anyways. The whole reason she ended up becoming a butcher is because she wasn't good enough for Bardock's squad and ended up leaving it. And while she has seen great progress on Earth in terms of her strength, I don't really know if she'd be fully dedicated to fighting like that, especially because she'd probably be more acclimated to the Earth life. Thankfully, she still is training, and there's people like Piccolo and Garlic around on Earth in case she needs a strong sparring partner. So she still is growing stronger, she's just not going to Beerus' planet full time. Granolah is still with the patrol obviously, and he does his own type of training. He's not sure if godly training will benefit him or if he really needs it. He's not as focused on fighting as the others. He does want to grow stronger, but he's not completely dedicating his life to it and going to some faraway planet just to appease some god. He's pretty comfortable where he is right now. Years pass, and eventually, the Frieza force comes to Earth in order to revive Frieza. He did die here, and since they have spied on Earth and know about the Dragon Balls, they've decided to take this opportunity to revive him, especially because all the Saiyans are gone right now. And at first it's pretty discreet. Nobody actually knows of Frieza's revival. But about 2 months after the fact, the patrol actually gets wind of it, and that means Granolah gets wind of it too. He talks to Maris about it too. Granolah needs to keep a calm composure, but Maris thinks it would be good if Granolah actually handled this. And Granolah said he wouldn't want it any other way. He's going to defeat Frieza, and he's not going to let his emotions take control of him here. They plan a surprise attack on Frieza. Normally the patrol wouldn't have the type of resources for this, but thanks to the strength of Granolah, he's going to actually take this on alone. Maris and Jocko are going to be there for support too. They locate Frieza out in space, and he's actually doing some training right now, basically using Tagoma as a punching bag. He's fully healed, and he hasn't grown as strong as he should, but very recently, like a few days ago recently, he did make some significant progress in his training. And it looks like he's going to have to put that to use because Granolah ambushes him. He has full authority to kill Frieza too. They're not going to arrest him. Frieza says he won't go down that easily. He doesn't even know who this guy is. Why would he be threatened by him? Granolah asks Frieza if he remembers Planet Cereal, and he can't really remember it. I mean, it was decades ago, and he sold and destroyed a lot of planets. But after thinking for a few seconds, he does remember the planet. Oh, so that explains it. This is a Cerealian survivor. He does remember the Heaters actually had some sort of issue on this planet. In the end, his troops were able to take over it and still sell it. Granolah should be happy to know that the planet is still around, just with a different species inhabiting it. But he wonders, is this the guy who killed off the Heaters? Somebody clearly killed them because they just disappeared out of nowhere on that planet. And Granolah says no, but he tells Frieza he was present when King Cold died. Wait, really? Yeah, he was one of the people who actually stormed that base, along with that group of Super Saiyans, including the first Super Saiyan, the one who actually killed the Heaters. That was the person who saved him that day. Well, that explains it to Frieza. He's out for revenge, and he's aligned with the Super Saiyan. But that doesn't matter to him because Frieza's more than strong enough to fight the Super Saiyan. Granolah says that's not going to be an issue. He's far beyond a Super Saiyan right now too. Frieza's already in his final form because he was in the middle of training, so he jumps right into battle, and Granolah doesn't even need to transform right at the moment. He has a pretty easy time fighting final form Frieza, and Frieza commends that power. But he tells Granolah he hasn't really trained much in his previous life. But over the past few months he has been training and has grown significantly. He'll let Granolah be the first to witness his new form, as he turns into Golden Frieza. It is still pretty powerful, but he only unlocked this pretty recently, so he doesn't have great control over it, and it's not like he even had good control over it when he first went to Earth in the original story. Not to mention, since this is a few months before normal, it does mean he will be weaker by default. Granolah then powers up too. Nothing changes about him except both of his eyes turning red, and he has a white aura around him. He's using the ultimate form right now. Maris and Jocko go around dealing with the rest of the army, and Granolah is ready to finish Frieza off. A quick battle ensues, and Granolah clearly has the upper hand here. But he's not going to get sloppy either. He's going to finish this off and make sure Frieza doesn't come back a second time. And he thanks Frieza. He's glad that he came back and gave him an opportunity to get his revenge one-on-one. He's put all of these feelings behind him, and the fact that he's able to face Frieza and keep his composure tells him that he's made a lot of progress. But it doesn't mean he's forgiven Frieza. Not at all. He's still going to kill him, just with a much more calm demeanor. He strikes Frieza in some vital points to stun him, and then finishes him off with a blast, disintegrating every bit of Frieza, killing him for good. The Saiyans are still growing on Beerus' planet. By now they've known Beerus and Whis for a while, and Whis is pretty happy with their progress. He's not sure if any of them have the mind to unlock Ultra Instinct, at least not just yet. Beerus clearly has some candidates in mind for God of Destruction. He thinks Bardock, Vegeta, and Nappa could have potential for that. Meanwhile, the other three Saiyans, Kakarot, Ruda, and Raditz, they might be more suited for Whis' technique of Ultra Instinct. But they don't really know about these types of powers yet, and they're not going to be forced down one specific path. Whis wants them to find this naturally. Though, he does have his eye on Kakarot because he seems to be growing the most towards Ultra Instinct. They still have a long ways to go, but at least by this point, they have Super Saiyan Blue, and they have fully perfected it as well, since they've had it for a few years. Vegeta and Nappa have actually evolved the forms, while Raditz actually just channels the power through Ultimate. Meanwhile, Bardock, Kakarot, and Ruda just use the regular perfected version of it, and try and focus on different types of power. So for Beerus, he sees that Bardock really is a wild card. He could probably go down either path. Anyways, they eventually learn of Champa, and the Universe 6 tournament is put into motion. The team here is pretty straightforward. It's Bardock, Kakarot, Ruda, Raditz, and for the fifth option, it's either Vegeta or Nappa. They end up doing rock, paper, scissors, and Nappa ends up winning, much to Vegeta's ire. But Nappa doesn't even get to fight here. The first one up is Raditz, and he's really excited. He shows off all of his power and ultimate against the fighters here, and it becomes really clear that he's actually the strongest one here, at least when it comes to raw power. Thanks to drawing out the power of Super Saiyan Blue and Ultimate, it's a lot less strenuous, and it's stronger than the other people with Super Saiyan Blue. He defeats Potamo, defeats Frost, defeats Magetta, although that's with words, defeats Kaba, and then he fights Hit. Doing pretty well against him, but even with his great strength, I'd say he loses this fight for a few reasons. For one, once he realized that he was the strongest and a little bit ahead of everyone, it kinda got to his head a bit, just for a few minutes, and Whis is pretty disappointed to notice this. He's a little bit off guard because of it, and on top of that, he doesn't know what to expect from Hit. So once they start fighting, Hit's able to overwhelm him with his techniques and get the jump on Raditz. Had he been more grounded going into this fight and actually observed Hit a little bit further, he might have been able to win here, but he's going to take this as a lesson. Kakarot's up next though, and he's been paying close attention to Hit. And just as he thought, even though Raditz is a bit stronger than him, Kakarot's not too far behind, and he's actually a little bit stronger than Hit as well. It's just enough to make a little gap, and combined with his technical knowledge alongside what he saw from Hit when he was fighting, Kakarot's able to pull ahead and win this battle. Although it's a lot tougher than just fighting with raw power. In the audience, Granolah's watching too. Of course, Granolah's gone down a very different path here in terms of his strength. In the original story, he essentially became a mercenary, so he used his cerulean abilities more like an assassin. Here, he hasn't really used it as such, but when he's watching Hit, he grows interested in the techniques that Hit's showing off. Maybe that could be useful for his arsenal, especially for someone like him who uses sniping abilities and great eyesight to his advantage. Hit's abilities and Granolah's abilities would mesh together pretty well. He wonders if he could use time powers for himself too, but that's going to be a lot tougher. He's more so impressed with Hit's regular fighting style. So Universe 7 ends up winning the tournament, and they get the Super Dragon Balls. The same exact wish is made too, with the Universe 6's Earth being restored. But of course, with the Universe 6 tournament happening, Zamasu was watching it too. Now he only got to see 2 of the Saiyan fighters. Raditz was using Godly Ki, but it's not like Zamasu could tell from the video that he was using a godly form. He never declared it as such, but Godly Ki was coursing through his veins, and this form was unlocked by a god after all. But as for Kakarot, he definitely was using a god's powers. It's clearly visible in the video, and he declares it as such too. But Zamasu's probably not going to act on his emotions here. Sure, he's upset by mortals using godly powers like this, but there hasn't been a time traveler here. So once he learns of the time rings, he still has some ire towards mortals, but thankfully he doesn't learn that one was messing with time. Well, there was Hit, but that's different. So Zamasu keeps it to himself for now and doesn't act rash at all. The Zero Mortals plan doesn't materialize. Maybe it will down the line, but definitely not at the moment. Kakarot decides he's going to do something a little bit stupid. It's very risky, but it could pay off very well. He hires Hit to assassinate him. Pretty much the exact same thing that Goku did. Now, the reason for him doing this is pretty straightforward. I mean, he wants to push himself beyond his limits. Yes, it is stupid to do, and when Hit comes to kill him, Kakarot actually puts up a really good fight against him. He's surprised because Kakarot has really great counters. Around the time Hit does this, Kakarot's even tapped into Ultra Instinct. Just Omen though, but he uses it in their battle, and it helps him win. But Hit asks why he did it in the first place. He knows Kakarot's doing this to train, but why not just do regular training? Even though Kakarot has unlocked Ultra Instinct and is the first one to do so, Until Kakarot fully masters this form, he won't be the strongest, so he really needs to think outside the box. The only way he's going to surpass everybody else is if he does things like this. Kakarot is the second strongest, and actually in Omen it does push him to be the strongest, but he can't really use Omen for very long, and of course it's not the completed Ultra Instinct. So he's been doing everything he can recently to actually push himself beyond his limits like that. Well, whatever. Hit kind of understands it, and at least he got paid for it. Hit then embarks on his journey back to Universe 6, but he actually doesn't have Champa and Vados with him right now. And this leaves an opening for him to be captured. For his crimes messing with time, the Galactic Patrol goes after him, and their strongest patrolman in particular is sent out to get him, Granolah. They're not sure why he's here. They don't actually know that Kakarot hired him, but Hit's an assassin in their jurisdiction, and he's breaking their laws. And Granolah obviously remembers him, but he used this as an opportunity. He tries to fight Hit as well. Hit's a little bit surprised. Everyone in this universe is really hungry for battle. He just does it as a job, but they seem to like it for fun. And Granolah doesn't really like it for fun as much as everyone else, but he wants to take advantage of this opportunity after seeing what Hit was capable of. The two clash for a bit, and Hit's techniques are really hard to keep up with, but thankfully, Hit is clearly holding back right now and not trying to kill Granolah, and Granolah is also holding back. He asks Hit to stop doing that, and he'll also stop holding back. Hit's actually going to be one of the first people to fight against this form. Wait, he could transform? Yep, he actually has a couple forms. Super Cerealian, Ultimate, and then something new. Ever since Vegeta and Nappa left her Beerus' planet, Granolah thought they were too hasty to do so, because they actually had access to an Angel's training right at the patrol. Granolah was the first one to realize this though. He spent his time training under Beerus, and no one besides Granolah knows his true identity yet. Granolah learned of his secret not long after Beerus and Whis showed up, but nobody else knew because Beerus took interest in Granolah specifically, and they were all training under Whis. Beerus is an angel. He tried to train Granolah with Ultra Instinct, but that didn't really work out for Granolah. But he got something equally as good as Ultra Instinct. And I've done this in another scenario before too. This form is a unique awakening for Ultimate Granolah, a level that is essentially his version of the Beast form, a form that I previously called Limitless Granolah. Anyways, this form essentially gives him perfect accuracy. It heightens his eyesight to a brand new level, as well as all of his other senses. It essentially gives him aimbot, an analytical prediction beyond what he had before. He also has instant reactions. Any attacks that come his way, he knows exactly how to react to them and to stop them. It's almost like his eyes can choreograph them before they even land. Basically, it's all the benefits of Ultra Instinct's offensive properties, dialed up to 11 though. And unlike Ultra Instinct, these movements require conscious effort. That's the downside compared to Ultra Instinct, but the upside is that it essentially gives Granolah limited foresight in battle. With this, he fights Hit and wins. Even with Hit's time skip technique and everything, this is kind of the perfect counter. And Granolah reveals that he doesn't actually plan to arrest Hit, mainly because they didn't expect Granolah to actually catch Hit, and they don't know what to do with a criminal from another universe. He more so wanted to take this opportunity to train with Hit. Yes, even though messing with time is against galactic law, he wants to learn more about it. He wants to train with Hit. And Hit is intrigued by him. This could be good for his own development too. Fine, he'll train with Granolah. He needs to come to Universe 6 though. And Granolah says it's a deal. Luckily, he doesn't really have much to do here. The Galactic Patrol has grown a lot stronger thanks to his guidance. And their biggest threat was a prisoner named Moro that nobody could ever execute. The patrol only kept him as a prisoner because he was too strong to kill, until Granolah came around. Moro's actually been dead for a little bit. Since they've had so many strong people as part of the patrol now, Granolah was the one to execute him. So Moro is not actually going to be an issue here. He embarks on his training, while Kakarot returns to Beerus' planet, and everyone continues their normal training. About a year later, the Tournament of Power is announced. Luckily for Universe 7, they already have a pretty stacked team right from the get-go. It's going to be Kakarot, Bardock, Raditz, Ruda, Vegeta, Nappa, Granolah, Piccolo, Garlic, and Gine. Bardock thinks this will be a good opportunity for the people on Earth that he hasn't seen in a bit. He's wondering how Granolah's developed, as well as Piccolo. He knows that Garlic and Gine have grown stronger. Garlic, of course, is still making use of Ultimate, and even though Gine doesn't have any forms beyond Super Saiyan 3, she's still strong despite being weaker than the rest of the team. Right off the bat, he sees what they're capable of. The biggest surprise is Piccolo. Piccolo used to be one of the strongest people on Earth and Bardock's rival. They haven't really seen each other much recently, but Bardock's glad to know that Piccolo is still growing stronger. Of course, he continuously trains, and he pretty much abuses the time chamber as much as he wants. Monaito's magic has grown a ton too, and he actually awakened Piccolo's potential, though it didn't really have too much of a boost. But Monaito and Piccolo then decided, if they want to learn more about growing stronger as a Namekian, they should go to the Demon Realm. I did skip Daima in this scenario because I kind of pick and choose which ones it'll fit into, but also I don't think it would happen in the first place. Since Earth has a much stronger Guardian, there's not really anything that Goma could do, so Piccolo's already encountered him and killed him with ease. But when he came here, they also saw Degasu, and, more notably, they saw another Namekian who actually looks very similar to Monaito, a really old and wise one named Neva. They visited the Demon Realm, and Neva got to see Piccolo's strength, and he attempted to use his own magic on Piccolo to awaken his power. Thanks to Piccolo killing Goma, he accidentally got on Rinsu's good side because now she's the Demon Queen. And things have actually been pretty tame here, as tame as the Demon Realm could be, so Neva's inclined to help. So Piccolo unleashes his new power during the tournament power, his own power awakened form. But he does have something beyond that too. Thanks to how potent Neva's magic is, Piccolo has his own new orange form. He tells Bardock that once they get back to Earth, the two of them need to fight. And Bardock's definitely not going to turn that down. Well, what about the rest of the team though, particularly the Saiyans? Kakarot has a great grasp on Ultra Instinct by this point. By now he could actually use the complete version, although it's pretty draining with stamina, and even though he could use it willingly, this doesn't make it a perfect form to use, though it's still a really huge feat that he has this. Ruda's not too far behind, and she could use Omen at will. As for Raditz, he continued growing with Ultimate. He doesn't have either Ultra form, but physically, he's still really powerful. Vegeta and Nappa, on the other hand, have started to train under Beerus, and the two of them have awakened Ultra Ego. As for Bardock, he uses neither form. He's kind of tried pursuing both, but neither really felt right for him. He can use Hakai's, and he can loosely use the principles of Ultra Instinct, but that's it. He can't use Ultra Ego, he can't use Ultra Instinct, but he can use the foundations of the two. That's because he's trying to aim for something else, and he doesn't know exactly what he's aiming for yet. Anyways, Kakarot decides he's going to test out his power against Jiren, seeing that Jiren is the strongest here. Since Kakarot wants to be number one, why not fight another universe's number one? As for Vegeta, he doesn't really need to use its destruction powers much, but at one point he does use the Hakai, and Toppo takes notice, deciding to fight him. And Vegeta learns that Toppo has a similar type of power. Now Nappa really wants to fight him, but he knows that Vegeta's probably going to defeat him one-on-one. Ruda and Raditz, on the other hand, see the Universe 6 Saiyans, and they take this as a chance to train with them. Raditz actually did encounter Cabba before, and he's glad to see that he's grown. He actually has Super Saiyan now. It took a long time to get because Raditz never taught him how to get the form, so Cabba's the only Super Saiyan. Caulifla and Kale do not have it yet. Raditz thinks it's cool seeing how different the Saiyans are here, and for Ruda, it's really weird because she's a Saiyan that was born and grew up on Earth. She's the only pure Saiyan that happened to. Kakarot grew up on Earth, but he at least was born on planet Vegeta and remembers some of it. And obviously the rest remember the planet. But Ruda's a unique case, and she's surprised to see that she's more like these Saiyans if anything. Though Kale and Caulifla get a little bit desperate, and despite not having Super Saiyan, they have another trick up their sleeve. Potara Fusion. Oh crap, Raditz remembers that. Thankfully they're not really too strong, and Ruda fights Kefla one-on-one. Kefla actually does awaken a transformation, just going Super Saiyan 1, but for some reason her hair is green, which confuses Ruda. Though with Perfected Blue she's able to defeat Kefla, as Raditz spends the rest of the time fighting Cabba while holding back significantly. Granolah was surprised to see the Universe 6 Saiyans as well. He saw Cabba before, and he knows that the Universe 6 has good Saiyans, which is really weird. But what doesn't surprise him is Frost. He also saw Frost at the last tournament, and they know by now that he's evil. So, pretty much right when the tournament starts, Granolah goes right after him, and one-shots him. There's also a sniper in another universe, and he tries to hit Granolah from far away, but without even looking, Granolah points a finger behind him, launching a single blast that destroys the other sniper's blast, bouncing around the ring and then hitting the sniper and his ally. He didn't even get either of their names, but it's good to know he's probably the best sniper in any universe here. And naturally, Piccolo's going to be curious about the Universe 6 Namekians. While everyone's enjoying their battles, Bardock just kind of sits there, like Jiren was doing at the beginning of the tournament. At some point, Jiren is actually eliminated by Kakarot, but Bardock is wondering if there's any other strong fighters out there. People do attack Bardock, but he has no fun, because a lot of them are very weak in comparison, and he's too advanced with his techniques. Thing is, right now, Bardock's actually not the strongest. Kakarot's actually the strongest. Vegeta's number 2, and then Bardock is sharing 3rd place with Nappa, Ruda, and Raditz. Nappa and Ruda would be higher, but Kakarot and Vegeta got their forms before them. And Granolah and Piccolo are catching up too. If Bardock doesn't think of something fast, he's going to fall behind. But also, he's not really too concerned right now. If he's the strongest, where's the fun in battle? Of course, he wants to be the strongest, but he's worried that he's going to plateau, especially without his own unique power. Does he really want to do the same thing as everyone else? Ultra Instinct doesn't really fit him, nor does Ultra Ego. He's reminded of his conversation with Beerus when they first met. Beerus said that Bardock used to be focused on destruction, and he remembers Beerus mentioning that Saiyan power is derived from that instinct. It's the principle that Vegeta and Nappa used, and Bardock did tap into his instincts back on Planet Cereal, but that was just to awaken Super Saiyan, so he's racking his mind trying to figure out what he can do. Is there a form for him, a technique, or something else? He has no clue. He hoped that this tournament would help him learn something, but no. He was observing everybody else in every other universe, and he didn't really see any unique powers that he likes and could try to steal from. He even sees Granolah's new power as Granolah goes to fight Hit at one point. The two of them are pretty evenly matched thanks to Hit's rapid growth and the fact that he trained Granolah. But even seeing something like this, Bardock has no clue what he's supposed to do. It seems like everyone has their own thing, but not him. Universe 7 ends up winning the tournament, and the wish ends up being the same. all the other universes are restored. Universe 7 probably wouldn't even lose any fighters in the ring. The weakest fighter on the team is probably Gine, and she could still hold her own. And of course, while Bardock was kind of doing his own thing, he made sure if anyone too strong got close to her, he was able to defeat them with ease. This reminded them of their old days as part of Team Bardock, and the two actually reminisced a bit during the tournament because of that. But yeah, Universe 7 has a pretty flawless victory. Following the tournament, without Frieza, Broly's not going to be found. As for the Moro arc, obviously that's not going to happen because Moro died. The Patrol executed him like they wanted. And it goes without saying that there's no Granolah arc. That was pretty much the first part of the series. There is a spectator for the tournament though. Since Zeno had a tablet that pretty much recorded and monitored everything for the tournament, the Grand Priest actually uploaded that to GodTube. This would be good for the gods to watch replays of the tournament and see which fighters can improve. It could be useful for them, though another god actually gets access to this. Gowasu was present at the tournament, and he shows this to Zamasu, thinking that Zamasu would find it interesting, but he finds it kind of disgusting actually. He doesn't vocalize this, but he's really annoyed at what he sees. A bunch of Saiyans running around pretending to be gods. 2 are using Ultra Instinct. 2 are using the powers of a god of destruction. 2 others using godly forms. Then there's Piccolo, who is gallivanting in the demon realm and used magic to awaken that power. A direct affront to the Kai, despite him being a guardian of a planet. There's some other things that disgust him too, like Universe 3 is playing God. Universe 3 is all about technology, and the god of that universe condones it too. All those artificial warriors meant to replicate mortals. Do the scientists in that universe think that they're gods creating their own creations like that? He's really annoyed. At least Toppo's actually allowed to use his powers. But it does kind of irk Zamasu how easily he threw away everything just to use them in a battle. So, while he didn't enact the Zero Mortals plan before, maybe something's about to change for him. Zamasu's actually been watching this family for a while, ever since the Universe 6 tournament actually. Obviously he's also seen the Tournament of Power, and now he has full knowledge of the Super Dragon Balls, and the Time Rings too. He detests what he saw there. Mortals acting like and defying gods, all for amusement of other gods, and some of them were even messing with time. It's not time travel, but still, bad enough. Over the last few years, his hatred for mortals has grown even more, and now he sees a vision for a new utopia, led by him, but he needs the power to back that up. One day he does get an idea though. Bardock's family is back on Earth right now. Vegeta and Nappa are still on Beerus' planet trying to train, but everyone here wants to take a little bit of a break. Raditz is riding his motorcycle back to his home. But when he gets there, he's surprised to see it destroyed. Kakarot's standing in front. Weirdly enough, his outfit's different. Raditz isn't immediately on guard, but he wonders what happened here. Did someone attack Kakarot? And then he smirks. Yes, someone did attack him. Over Kakarot's shoulder, he sees someone lying on the ground. He looks to be wearing Kakarot's outfit, but he's green. He looks like one of the Kai almost. Raditz is really confused, but before he can even ask anything else, a sword is plunged through his chest. This isn't Kakarot that he's talking to. This is Zamasu, or Kakarot Black. Raditz falls over, dying without expecting it. Kakarot Black then flies up into the air, and then someone else arrives not too far away. It's Gine. She sees the home destroyed, with Raditz lying out in front of it. She immediately powers up as Kakarot Black then goes to attack her, but before he could hit her, somebody else arrives, hitting him with a powerful punch. It's Ruda. She asks Kakarot why he's attacking Gine, but after one look at him, she could tell this isn't Kakarot. Something about his whole demeanor is different. And then she sees everything else. The destroyed house. Raditz dead in front of it. Immediately she feels an immense rage, powering up to her maximum. She goes into blue evolution. She's so clouded by anger right now that she can't even use Ultra Instinct properly. Gine joins in on the battle too. They don't know who this is, and why he looks like Kakarot, but as they keep fighting him, he continues growing even more. And even with Ruda using blue evolution, he seems really strong just in base, but Ruda has more than enough power to kill him like this. Reluctantly, she does so. Whatever issue this is, it doesn't matter. This could be fixed by the Dragon Balls. They've had to kill Boo before while he absorbed some of their friends, and they were able to bring them back, so this isn't really a first for her. She hits him with a double Sunday, strong enough to completely destroy his body. And it looks like that's that. But, weirdly enough, he then regenerates from it, like nothing happened. What? And he thanks her for that. It'll definitely help him grow even further. Plus, you could feel the anger in him too. It seems to help Saiyans channel more power, but it's gonna definitely help him as well. He then tries to power up, transforming into what looks to be a pink Super Saiyan form. Super Saiyan Rose. He then jumps back into the battle, and this form is enough to actually counter both of them at once. Ruda tries to go into Ultra Instinct, and now she's calmed herself down a bit, which turns the tide of the battle again, and although she can tap into the complete Ultra Instinct, she can only really use Omen at the moment, mainly because of the rage she's feeling at what happened with Kakarot and Raditz. And this does give her the edge, but it's weird. This pink-haired form would have contended with her blue evolution form. How'd he grow so strong so quickly? Well, he says Kakarot's to thank for it. He is in Kakarot's body, after all, and he's getting more and more accustomed to it. He hasn't really had much time to grow with it, but It seems that battling is the best way to do so. And who knows, maybe after some time, he'll be able to use that Ultra Instinct form. He knows Kakarot had full access to it, so hopefully he can get that soon too. As she continues fighting him, he keeps growing, and it looks like none of the damage he's taking is doing anything. He just keeps regenerating from it. And the worst part is, every time he regenerates, he even grows from that too. His rage helps him grow, his accelerated development helps him grow, and, while not a huge factor anymore, his Zenkais are helping him grow, particularly when he takes a lot of damage. Thankfully, she does have some more help. 2 other people arrive, Garlic and Bardock. The 2 are actually training. Garlic was just showing Bardock a new form. He's not really sure what he's seeing right now. The 2 of them are pretty confused. But when Ruda tries to quickly explain to them, Garlic has an immediate reaction. Now, he didn't see any of this firsthand, so it's not as potent as it should be, but he feels an immense amount of rage, letting him instantly transform into the new form that he was just showing to Bardock, his Beast form. Beast Garlic starts fighting against Kakarot Black. Kakarot Black is hopeless to fight against him, but Ruda warns Garlic. Every time he's injured, he grows more. She's not really sure what's happening here, but it doesn't seem like anything they can do can stop him, so don't focus on killing him. Just focus on actually holding him off right now while they figure out what to do next. But it's already too late because Garlic tried to destroy him once more, completely obliterating his body and letting him regenerate again, this time getting even stronger. But he commends them. Good on her for actually noticing this. He reveals a little bit more about who he is. He's here to exterminate all the mortals, starting with personally killing everyone here. And he could have wished for them to all go, but that wouldn't be good enough. He wants to kill them himself. And what better way to do that than steal the body of one of the strongest mortals, one of the ones who he grew to hate, Kakarot. Now, he doesn't have any specific ill will against Kakarot. He just realized that this guy would be the best vessel for him. He seems to be the most balanced in terms of power and technique, especially after seeing his performance in the Tournament of Power. But that's not the only wish he made. First, he wished for immortality. Then, he went back to the present and wished to swap bodies with Kakarot. This also brought his immortality over to him too. He made sure to phrase the wish as such. He's the ultimate fighter, one who can't die, and one with amazing power who's constantly growing stronger. He's full of rage right now too, making him grow even further. He then ascends once more, and it's not Ultra Instinct. He's still trying to tap into that, but he gets something else. It looks like Super Saiyan 2, but the hair's still pink. This is Super Saiyan Rose 2. What a nice form for him. And then he does something weird, creating a large scythe out of ki, and then swinging it at them. It misses, but it then seems to cut space-time itself, as other copies of Kakarot Black appear. The main Kakarot Black goes for Bardock now, while the clones keep on coming out of the portal, going for everyone else. Gine can't really keep up as well, but fighting alongside Ruda and Garlic, they're at least able to hold him off. They have no clue what to do here. They can't kill him. They can't even hurt him because if they do, it just makes him grow stronger. And they don't know if it's going to have diminishing gains or not, but they don't want to test that out. Maybe there's some upper limit to how much he's going to grow, but there's no point in trying to find that. That's too risky. There's got to be some way to seal him, and Bardock does remember that back in the past, Piccolo was actually sealed away. Piccolo told him this at one point, so maybe Piccolo will know how to deal with him. He doesn't say this out loud, though. Bardock uses all of the power he can to try and fight back, while also not injuring Kakarot Black too much. But it does nothing. He has to dial up his power even further, and it's almost like Kakarot Black lowers his power whenever he takes an attack, specifically to get injured by it. But then, when someone's not using their full power, he has his guard up completely, so he takes no damage. But Kakarot Black does notice something weird. It's something Garlic just saw in their training too. Bardock's aura starts to change a little bit. It's pulsating in a strange way. Kakarot Black's a little bit confused. He didn't see this in all his research of everyone here, but there's a weird yellow aura surrounding Super Saiyan Blue. Nothing else changes though, and it's very subtle, barely noticeable. He's not sure what it is, but he's had enough fun with Bardock. He wants to see if he could push his power even further. As he continues growing, he then tries to power up once more, summoning the power of Super Saiyan 3 now, Rose 3. How is this guy growing so quickly? And it's not a normal Super Saiyan 3, it's like some sort of godly version of it. They've never seen anything like this, particularly that hair color. He then creates a scythe once more, swinging it at Bardock trying to cut him in half, but Bardock barely dodges it. Though, that was just a feint, because Kakarot Black's other arm has a key sword around it, which gets stabbed right through Bardock's chest. And Kakarot Black laughs as he does this. This is the same exact way his 2 sons died. What a fitting way to go out. The key sword then turns into a key blast, putting a hole through Bardock's chest, as he falls down to the ground, bleeding out. But as Bardock's body hits the ground, the portals where the clones are coming from start closing, and unseen attacks then hit Kakarot Black, and he then feels almost paralyzed, like he's stuck in place, but not normal paralysis, like he's lagging almost. The final 2 fighters show up. Granolah and the guy from Universe 6? Ruda, Gine, and Garlic are confused why he's here, but Granolah is still training with him, so they were together right before this. It thinks that this will be a fun test, and Granolah says they should be able to help out here. They saw what was happening and got involved as quick as possible. Granolah looks to where Bardock was and he sees that he's not there anymore. He then smiles, telling the other three they don't have to worry about Bardock. It looks like he's in good hands. Granolah and Hit start using their time powers, holding off Kakarot Black by trying to make him experience time lag. This isn't going to completely stop him, and he's going to be able to break out of it, but it'll figuratively and literally slow him down for the time being at least, while they figure out what to do next. Bardock wakes up. He thought he died, but he was only unconscious for a little bit. The stab wound and hole in his chest is gone. His armor is even restored too. He looks around and notices that he's on the lookout. Right as he fell to the ground, Piccolo teleported in quickly, grabbing him and bringing him up here. He was watching and wanted to help, also trying to figure out what happened too. Bardock wants to get back. He's still unsure of what they could do, but he asks Piccolo if he knows about a technique to seal people, and Piccolo was very familiar with that. Yeah, the Mafuba. Something that was used on him, and something that he actually knows himself. But Piccolo asks Bardock what that power was, that weird aura surrounding him, and Bardock's not sure either. He's been feeling these weird tinges of that recently. Whenever he's been fighting anyone, it's like a new power surging in him, but he has no clue how to tap into it. Well, Piccolo says that whatever it is, he's sure Bardock will be able to find it out. Besides, Piccolo tells Bardock that Bardock's his greatest rival, and still the greatest warrior on the planet, the one who made him grow into the person he is today, and the warrior that he is today. Piccolo believes that he could solve this. Bardock's heart beats once. It feels powerful. He looks stunned for a bit, and then it feels like the lookout shakes briefly, lasting for the exact length of his heartbeat, and that aura briefly surrounds him, flaring up and dying down as his heartbeat dissipates. Monaito's confused. He's not sure what that was, but he says he could also tell Bardock's on the cusp of a new discovery. He believes in him. Popo says the same thing too. The same thing happens again. Bardock's heart beats loud, shaking the lookout. The aura pulsates around him. What is this? And Piccolo can see the common denominator. It takes a second for Bardock to realize, but now he's seeing it. He tells him to keep that faith in him. For some reason, it almost feels like it's empowering him. Bardock knows what he needs to do now. He closes his eyes as the aura creeps around him once more. He tries to focus, tapping into it again. He then dives off the lookout. Piccolo could have teleported him back, but Monaito says to let him travel. In the meantime, tell the others. Piccolo mentally communicates with everyone on the surface, telling them that Bardock is arriving. And Bardock feels something strange. He feels thoughts echoing in his head. He hears Ruda thinking about how she believes in him, how she looks up to him. Garlic's thoughts fill his head too. He's always saw his grandfather as a great warrior and strived to be like him one day. He hears Granolah, relieved to hear that Bardock's okay and he's coming back. He saved Granolah before, and he's going to save everyone again. Gine believes in him more than anyone else. And then he hears Hit's thoughts. Hit doesn't really know Bardock that well, but he remembers being kind of impressed by him. Bardock's a little underwhelmed to hear this. But then he hears thoughts from other people too. Even though they're dead, Raditz and Kakarot's thoughts from Otherworld reach him. His heartbeat grows more, getting louder and louder, creating shockwaves every time it beats, as the aura pulsates around him. Bardock lands on the battlefield. Kakarot Black feels stunned for some reason, like he's intimidated by Bardock's presence briefly. Why does he feel like this? Bardock says for killing his sons, and attacking his family, and trying to destroy everything he's built. This guy's gonna pay. Bardock is surrounded by that yellow flaming aura once again. It remains close to his body, slowly creeping around it and pulsating alongside his heartbeat. It's like the same aura that appeared around him when fighting Gas, but not uncontrolled, and it's also not as bright as Super Saiyan. Like Ultra Ego, Bardock's hair stands up, but like Ultra Instinct, the hair's not rigid, it's flowing. It's tinged with the reddish-orange color, mostly black, but it's almost like it has rust on it. This is his Ultra form, unique to him. It's the first time he's accessing this. But what is this? Well, Bardock doesn't know right now, but I'll explain. So when coming up with a unique Ultra form for him, I looked a little bit into psychology, and I found something interesting. Something that I think fits really well with this. So, this might be a little deep for a Dragon Ball fanfiction, but Sigmund Freud theorizes that there are 3 parts of the human psyche. Id, which is tied to instinct. Then there's ego, which is the sense of self. So I think it's really obvious where I'm going with this. I saw this and thought, well, instinct is already used by Kakarot and Ruda with Ultra Instinct, their lifelong martial artist. Then there's Ultra Ego, used by Vegeta and Nappa. In Japanese, Ultra Instinct is the secret of the self-centered, while Ultra Ego is the secret of the self-indulgent. The third part of the human psyche that Freud mentioned is the super ego, focused on morality and a higher purpose almost. This is a really huge oversimplification of it, but this way you know of the trifecta that I'm talking about. Bardock isn't the pinnacle of morality, but I think his character in the original story and here does focus on some sort of higher purpose. He was a Saiyan who tried to change fate originally, and even in Super's version, he still did try to oppose Frieza and stood out, differing from the normal Saiyans, almost like he has a more nuanced enjoyment of fighting than the average Saiyan does, and he's definitely way different than the average Saiyan. This Bardock here has actually fulfilled his life purpose. He's found a higher purpose, living beyond a Saiyan lifestyle, also saving and raising others. Now, I wouldn't call this Ultra Super Ego because that sounds weird, so this one will be the Secret of Spirit, or what we'll call it, Ultra Spirit. Which kind of fits for Bardock. I mean, his final attack against Frieza is the final Spirit Cannon. He embodies a warrior spirit, and that's what this Ultra form is. But how does it work? Well, Bardock acts as a living spirit bomb, essentially. The more people believe in him, and the more he believes in himself, and the greater his resolve, the greater his power. At first, the strength isn't enough to overpower Zamasu, but it rapidly starts growing. As they see something with Bardock's changed, their faith in him grows further. Bardock admires this new power that he's feeling. It's growing, and he can see how to improve it even further. He's slowly learning how to utilize it. He could change everything once more, just like he has before. He doesn't care if this guy's immortal or not. He coalesces all of his energy and launches a final spirit cannon at him. But it doesn't act like a regular ki blast. As it hits Kakarot Black, the blast surrounds him and then is absorbed into him. At first, Kakarot Black feels nothing, but then it starts to ravage his body. The energy, Bardock's spirit, it travels through him. He regenerates from it at first, but it keeps going. Bardock's spirit is now festering within him. It's at war with him. Every time he regenerates and grows stronger, the spirit of Bardock grows more too. It's corroding him. It's a poison. And Kakarot Black keeps growing from this, even getting larger, going into full power Rosé, buffing himself even further, but Bardock's will is overpowering his raw strength. He can't die, but he can't overcome this. His physical body eventually ends up collapsing. His spirit escapes, with his immortality acting as fuel for Bardock's attack. He becomes non-physical almost. And he doesn't merge with the universe like Zamasu, but he takes on a corrupted form where he's basically fully made of ki. But still, it can't counter Bardock. And it seems like this is going to go on forever, until Piccolo then appears, sealing him away for good. And with that, he's defeated. Following this, Piccolo spent some time trying to figure out what happened, and they finally learn of it. Kakarot and Raditz are revived, of course, and same for Gowasu, who they didn't know of before. Gowasu pays them a visit, and he remembers them from the Tournament of Power, thanking them for their help. But it's a shame to see his student resorted to this. And what happens next? Well, even though the Red Ribbon Army was decimated, Magenta and Hedo are probably still alive. But Superhero won't be a problem because Garlic and Piccolo already have their necessary forms, so even if somebody's off Earth, whatever project they make won't be a problem. Plus, they'll probably even have some extra help from Krillin, so there's no issue with Superhero, and now we basically arrive to the point when the Peaceful World Saga is supposed to happen, at the end of Z. Bardock is slowly getting closer to his old age. How old is Bardock, though? Let's assume Bardock and Gine had Raditz pretty young at around age 18 and assume Raditz is Vegeta's exact age. This would mean Raditz is born in age 732, and let's say Bardock and Gine got married at 18 and then had Raditz at 19, that puts their birth date around age 713. And since we're in age 784, with that low-end estimate, they're at least 71 years old. Probably older if we use higher estimates, which is very likely too. Bardock is on the cusp of his rapid aging. He's not fully affected just yet. Either way, he's still in his prime, but slowly, he's going to start feeling the effects. But he wants to enjoy his remaining time as a warrior. But weirdly enough, this new Ultra Spirit form he has a strange effect. When he uses it, he feels a lot more energized, a lot younger. He even looks younger too. Of course, godly forms make the user look more youthful, like Super Saiyan God did this, but this form legitimately makes him younger. It puts him in his prime. And sure, it's not going to make Bardock immortal, but he realizes now that even when he starts to rapidly age, he could use this form to revert back to how he was. It's not too big of a concern right now, but it's nice to know that his time as a warrior has been extended, mainly because his spirit is so strong. And of course, everyone wants to test out this power for themselves. Vegeta and Nappa are a bit bummed that they missed the fight that went on Earth, but at the very least, Vegeta says Bardock can make it up to them by fighting them. Kakarot and Raditz want to test it out too. They kinda missed what happened because, well, they were dead. An extra wish did have to be made to give Kakarot his body back, because it was completely eviscerated by Bardock's attack. But he tries fighting against Bardock too. Ultra Instinct versus Ultra Spirit. Now, he didn't keep the insane power of Kakarot Black because they restored his body basically from the point in which he died. But he's still a great warrior, and this is going to make for a great battle with Bardock. And, fitting for the form, every time he fights with the people around him, Bardock feels a great sense of pride, growing even stronger, seeing the fruits of all his efforts. And he's happy. Even if he does start rapidly aging soon, he's glad with what he's made out of his life. And with that, we end off our story here. What do you guys think about this story as a whole? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel, and it shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, thanks for supporting the scenario all the way through, and I'll see you all in my next video.